Hello, and welcome to Comics with Friends, the bi-weekly podcast where two best buds get together, read a comic, talk about what they loved about the comic, what they didn't like about the comic, and maybe tell a few jokes along the way. I am your host, Ethan, joined by my co-host and best bud, Mason. And today we are covering Planet Hulk, written by Greg Pak and drawn by a plethora of artists, including Carlo Paglion. Hopefully I pronounced that right. We Googled it, and I think I already forgot it. So if I got that wrong, I very much apologize for that. Aaron Lopresti, Gary Frank, and a host of other backup artists. What is up?
Not much. I'm excited to get in this one.
I am too. I am
This
super excited.
beefy story. I mean, whenever we brought up talking about Planet Hulk, because you hadn't read it and everything, I was like, oh, dude, like Planet Hulk's amazing.
Yeah. I haven't read it. I saw the movie when I was a kid. Like I was very young when the movie came out. And of course, we've both seen Thor Ragnarok, which takes heavy inspiration from this. And now that I've read this, we talked about this a little bit before the recording. Now that I have read this, I don't think the movie holds up as well.
And like we also said, we're like, if you just take Ragnarok as a standalone kind of like story, it holds up.
Yeah.
But the moment you read this and see how heavily inspired it is, you're like, wow, they really just like wasted like great ideas of a Marvel movie for something that didn't necessarily need to like.
Which is funny too, because now that I'm thinking about it, it's like they took portions of Planet Hulk and portions of Siege, which was a Thor event that involved Ragnarok and the death of Thor, which
just mashed.
Yeah, they just kind of mashed the two ideas together, and I feel like that's kind of a waste. And I don't know if you've read Siege.
No, I haven't.
It's really good. At least I liked it. I don't know how other people felt about it. We'll do that eventually, and we'll see how you feel about Siege, because I kind of feel that way about Planet Hulk.
And I'm not a huge Thor fan, so that'll be interesting.
I'm not a huge Thor fan either. Obviously, there are some Thor stories that I really like Unworthy Thor, I think, is the best Thor story written. It's just really good. It's when he loses Mjolnir. He also loses his arm, and he gets I think it's Stormbreaker. Yeah, that's when he gets it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that story's good. We'll cover that eventually. But today we're here for Planet Hulk. This story was awesome. I did not expect it to be this cool. It was so good. It made me want to go out and buy Hulk. Again, like before we started recording, I was telling you yesterday, Nicole and I were out, and Nicole bought me the Peter David, the first volume for the omnibus at our local comic book store. And I'm excited to read more Hulk after this. Like, this is cool. This has opened me up to a character that I had no interest in.
My thing is like, obviously, I haven't read a whole lot of Hulk. This is like primarily my only like Hulk story that I've read before. Hulk has always seemed like not a one-trick pony. Well, a little bit, in the sense of like it's always that dichotomy of Bruce versus Hulk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's the core of the character.
Yeah.
And with this, I felt like it really personalized Hulk in a way that like you don't see. Like they tried to do it with like Infinity War and Endgame. Like that whole thing where they made Smart Hulk and stuff like that. And to me, that was just Bruce Banner.
Yeah. It's just Mark Ruffalo.
Who looked like Hulk.
Yeah.
This really added like Hulk has a personality, is his own identity comparatively to Bruce. Like they both are separate individuals living in the same body.
Before I started reading this, because I'll touch back on that MCU thing in a second. Before I started reading this, because I was talking to one of the guys at the shop, one of the guys that works there, because me and him, we're buddies outside of that, and I was telling him that I bought this book for the podcast, and I was telling him like, man, I didn't know Hulk talked. Like I didn't know he could like hold a conversation. Like the MCU had kind of built him up to be this just mindless rage monster. Because again, that's besides like comic book events, that's my only exposure to Hulk
Right.
is the movies. And then if he's in an event and doesn't get killed, that's, what I read of Hulk. But no, Hulk is like a really well developed character that kind of has like his own goals, and he also has like his own sadness to him, because like Banner's sadness is the fact that he can't just be normal.
Yeah.
But Hulk's whole sadness is that like
He can't exist.
he can't exist, or else people are gonna fucking hate him.
Yeah, like we'll touch on it as we go, because there's like almost a whole chapter dedicated to that concept of just like Hulk has his own insecurities, his own fears. Like, again, it's literally like he's his own person, has his own identity. He just so happens to be stuck in the same body as Bruce Banner. And it was, we're kind of jumping the shark here, but it was interesting to see that he almost has like a fearful complex of Bruce Banner.
Yeah.
Compared to normally you're like, oh, well, he's just an angry rage monster, so the only person who's obviously afraid in this is Bruce. But we'll get into that once we get to that part of the story. But yeah, this is a really good
and I feel, because you mentioned the MCU with Infinity War and Endgame, and I would say to some extent maybe Ragnarok as well, Thor Ragnarok. I feel like the reason why it doesn't work in those movies is because it was too little too late.
Yes.
Because they were already in the
late stages.
not the death throes, because that indicates that saga was bad, and it wasn't. But they were already in the end stages of like, hey, these are the characters, they are set in stone, they have developed.
Yeah.
It is time to see all their character development at play and how their stories end. And I feel like they just kind of shoehorned in Professor Hulk as like hey, all of the original 6 Avengers, they're all different, because obviously like Tony retired.
Yeah.
Cap is still the same. He's Cap.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to be cool no matter what. He's the leader of the Avengers.
Hawkeye's got his family.
Yeah. Hawkeye he lost his family and he became Ronin.
Yeah.
Black Widow is not really Black Widow anymore, because she's more of like a liaison for the Avengers. And Thor got fat and lame, because I don't like fat Thor. I don't like the big Lebowski or whatever.
That didn't bother me, that little thing, but I agree, because I think they just straight up threw in the towel as far as like doing any Hulk standalone.
It's because they can't work with Universal, because Universal owns the movie rights to Hulk.
I'm sure they could have worked out a deal just like they did with Spider-Man.
Oh, they could have.
They could have.
But here's the thing. Spider-Man is their most popular character. Hulk is like their third most popular character.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Look what they did for Iron Man and Captain America. And,
That's true.
They could have easily... Because, like, Hulk is a pretty beloved character, even if it's not the MCU's most popular. I mean, if you look back...
MCU-wise, no. But in the comics, it's Spider-Man, Wolverine, Hulk. Those are like the 3 most popular characters.
That's what I'm saying. They're like, well, he's not our popular hero.
Yeah.
So let's not make an effort. When they could have... I'm sure Universal, seeing how big the MCU was getting, would be like, dude...
We want a piece of that pie.
We want a piece of that pie. We'll give you a great deal just so we can...
Because... I think the way that Marvel worked with Sony was Sony earned the money from the movies, but Disney earned the money from the merchandising,
right?
Which was a smarter move.
Yeah, it's like the George Lucas thing.
Yeah,
but it's like, that was the smart play, like because the merchandising and everything like that. But they could have easily. I mean, they just basically shoehorned in the Ed Norton. Hulk as like that's his origin movie.
Yeah,
that's our beginning movie for Hulk, which
I mean there is a post-credit scene with Tony Stark in it.
There is, but at the same time,
it's a very different Hulk.
It's a very different Hulk, and not just visually, but just like personality wise. Like even Bruce is totally different. Like Bruce doesn't in that movie isn't portrayed as very smart. Like he's not dumb, obviously, but he doesn't seem like how Mark Ruffalo portrays Bruce.
Because Mark Ruffalo is portrayed as like on the same level as like Reed Richards or Tony Stark, where he's like an nth level intellect that is just so smart. That like obviously he helps create Ultron. Like
Yeah, and Ed Norton just seems like he might have gone to like Yale or Harvard.
yeah, he's just a really smart guy.
Yeah,
That's it.
but I mean, yeah, I mean, we should probably go ahead and get into this.
Yeah, we've already spent 10 minutes just talking about, the build up. I mean, history wise, there's not a whole lot of history with Planet Hulk besides like it was released in 2006 as just a part of the standard Incredible Hulk, imprint. Yeah, at that time, Marvel was kind of going through a renaissance because they had just pulled themselves out of bankruptcy, and they also just had a really good success with the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy and the X-Men movies. Obviously, they got a little bit bad, but well, that's another time.
I liked X2.
Yeah, I liked X2 as well. I think X2 is so far the best X-Men movie that's come out.
Yeah.
At the time, I believe it was Joe Quesada and Bill Jimenez. They were the heads of Marvel. And I think it was Joe Quesada was like, hey, I really want to see Bruce be Russell Crowe from the Gladiator movie.
Yeah.
And he was like, I want to see that.
Not even Bruce.
Yeah, he was like, I want to see Hulk. Yeah.
I want to see Hulk in some like armor.
Wouldn't that be badass? And everyone was kind of like, yeah, that would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
So he was like, all right, get to work. he was like, make it happen.
One thing that consistently went through my head as I read this is just like the story of Spartacus.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the Spartacus show way back whenever it came out. I'm pretty sure it was HBO.
Yeah, it was HBO.
I watched that probably way too young to be watching that.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks, Mom and Dad. But yeah, I watched that way when that came out, and that was really good. Later seasons, kind of, because unfortunately the very talented actor, which I cannot remember his name off the top of my head, for the first season, he tragically passed after the first season, and
they recasted him.
I don't think they understood how to kind of like handle that, because like then the second season was like a prequel rather than a continuation, and then the third season was like a they kind of jumped because I think they weren't sure how to handle with what to do with the death of this actor. But yeah. As I read this, I was like, yeah, this is like a Spartacus story. 100%.
That was a huge inspiration.
Gladiator too.
From it, yeah. And Greg Pak, the writer for this story, he went all in on, not just writing wise, because it's very well written. Like in the back of, I think, any collected edition of Planet Hulk that you buy, in the back of it, you will find like 15 to 20 pages of world building where it shows full maps of like Sakaar, which is the planet that the whole story takes place on, and the Imperial City. It tells you about the culture of all the different alien races, the histories. Yeah. It's really cool. I don't think I've seen that happen in a comic book in a very long time, if at all.
Yeah.
Because like most comic books just do world building as the stories come out. There's no like preamble, like
it's almost
this
like
is what you're getting into.
It's almost like what a novel does.
Yeah, kind of.
Like a fantasy novel does. Because I've seen plenty of fantasy maps and stuff with the books I've read, and it just is like, like they wanted to take this whole run and just make it like this cool fantasy-esque sci-fi.
It's very Tolkien inspired in that aspect, where it's very fleshed out, and you're kind of you're thrown into this world halfway through, or more than halfway through.
But it feels lived.
But it feels like it's lived in. It feels real in a sense, which is kind of crazy when we're talking about like the Hulk with aliens
and bug aliens.
Yeah, and rock people and shit like that. Really awesome. They went balls to the wall on this story, and
it paid off.
Yeah, and it kind of lined up well for them as well when it came to this story, because at the same time they were planning on doing Civil War, and they were kind of racking their brains, being like, okay, well,
whoever the Hulk chooses is gonna win.
Yeah, whoever the Hulk chooses is gonna win, because Thor's dead.
Yeah.
Because at this point, Thor was already dead, not because of Siege, but because of another event.
And they had like a not a clone. It was like a robot. Robot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a robot called Ragnarok, believe it or not. And they were essentially like, okay, well, Thor's not on the table. We need to get Hulk off the table as well. And so Joe Quesada went to Brian Michael Bendis, who at the time was writing the Illuminati book, I believe. And he was like, hey, we need you to find a way to get this character off. And Brian Michael Bendis was like, I got you. So that's kind of where like when you open up this book, there's a previously page where it kind of tells you like what happened. Mm-hmm. And essentially Banner was not hired, but asked by S.H.I.E.L.D. to, stop a rogue AI from like destroying the planet on this satellite, and to save Nick Fury. When he gets onto that satellite, he finds out that the Nick Fury that's there isn't actually Nick Fury. It's like a robot, and that the satellite's not a satellite. It's a ship. It's like a shuttle. And that's kind of where the story picks up. We immediately pick up with Hulk on the planet, or not on the planet, on the shuttle. And you see the Illuminati, because it's Mr. Fantastic, Tony Stark,
Doctor
Strange, and Black Bolt.
Yeah.
The King of the Inhumans. They essentially say like, hey, you leveled Las Vegas, because in a story arc prior to that, he had a fight in Vegas.
Basically wiped it off the map.
Yeah, you leveled Vegas, and you've leveled so many cities and hurt so many people before that. And at this point, we just cannot control you. And so we're going to do the one thing you've always wanted, and we're going to send you somewhere where you will be left alone. Mm-hmm. And they essentially just tell him, hey, you're going to be going to this beautiful, vibrant planet that has no life on it.
No intelligent
life.
Plenty of game.
Yeah, there's obviously going to be animals there and stuff like that. So they're not sending him to die.
Yeah.
They're just sending him to live in solitude for the rest of his fucking life.
Which, like, I can see the argument, because, Bruce has always been like, I want to be left alone. Mm-hmm. But I don't think he ever was like, because he also has always been, I want to be left alone, but I also want to live a normal life.
Yeah, because he still wants to be an Avenger.
Yeah.
Not necessarily like a combatant, like he doesn't want to fight people.
But like work science division kind of shit. Yeah.
Obviously, he's hulked out. He sees the message, instantly starts destroying shit, knocks the navigation off, and he falls through this big-ass wormhole. Immediately lands on Sakaar, which again is the planet that this entire story takes place on. And he is immediately besieged by like these bug people.
Yeah.
This is the race that the character Meek is from. And they're the native inhabitants of this planet. Mm-hmm. I don't believe the Imperials, which are they call them the Pinkies.
Yeah.
Those are the like ruling class race. I don't think they're natively from Sakaar.
Yeah, because the only species of alien referenced as natives in this story are the bug.
Yeah, the bugs.
Which I don't think their species is ever really given a name, unless I missed that.
If it is, I missed it as well. And in fact, I can, because they have all of the
races.
The races, species. On here. It might take me too long to find it, so I might just have to look at it at a different time. We'll figure it out as we go, because there's so much in here.
Back.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
they just say native for like Meek. They don't even give him a race.
They're just the natives.
Yeah, just the natives.
So maybe like Sicarians. I don't know. But yeah, they're the native race, and they're kind of like scavengers at this point.
Yeah, their entire planet has been taken from them by the Imperials, which are the ruling class. They start to attack Hulk. They actually hurt him.
Yeah,
because the Hulks begin saying like, "Go ahead, shoot me. Nothing's gonna happen." They shoot him. He immediately starts bleeding. He's like, "Oh, what?"
Yeah. And it's explained like almost immediately, because the Imperials show up and they're like, you've been like, I don't care how strong you think you are, you've been weakened by like everything that's come through the Great Portal has been weakened and things like that.
Yeah.
And so you might think you're strong, but you're not. and which also leads up to a very cool moment where I can't remember the name of the guy because I don't think it's the king.
No,
It's just like an officer or lieutenant or something.
I think it's Val or Vaughn or something like that.
Is it the head like training guy of the gladiators? Because that's Vand.
I think it's him. I think it's Vand.
Well, he's like, like kneel, and Hulk's like, I kneel to no one, and he like, because they get this obedience disc on him,
Yeah,
and he's like, I kneel to no one, and he like activates it or whatever, and he falls to the ground, hits the ground, and he's just like, close enough.
Yeah, close enough. And when Hulk wakes up, that's when we're introduced to. I assume it's the Imperial City. Yeah, it's the Imperial City. Which when I saw this panel on here, it instantly made me think of like Tatooine, like a Star Wars. Like you are seeing all these different like alien species.
It's like Tatooine and the troll market from Hellboy.
Yeah, very very reminiscent of both of those. And they go straight to work. So an Imperial buys Hulk. Obviously, slavery is a huge part of this because it's very Roman inspired. Slaves fight in the pits or in the Colosseum. Mm-hmm. If you win enough times, you earn your freedom. That kind of deal. Again, this is super inspired by the Gladiator movie and the Spartacus show, like you were mentioning.
Yeah.
And it's really, really, really good. Like they take a lot of inspiration, but they make sure to make it different enough to kind of give their own spin on it.
That and they're just taken straight from just Roman culture too, and like Roman history. I mean, like the king of this place is like you could probably match him with almost half the Roman emperors that ever existed.
So Hulk meets Meek, who is, by all accounts, unique for him because he is hiveless. He has no hive. There's a story behind that. They don't tell us right away, just because it is very tragic. Mm-hmm. So they save it for later on. I think we don't find out till about halfway into the story.
Yeah, once you meet the main cast throughout the story, because this is a very long story.
Yeah.
Throughout it, you eventually get everyone's kind of like backstory as to their lives and everything like that.
Yeah. Hulk saves Meek from this alien tentacle monster. He takes a battle axe and he just slices the thing in half. At the same time, the Emperor is speaking with one of his guard, talking about Hulk and how he's just a mindless monster. No one he won't last long in the pits, anything like that. And then that's when we're introduced to the Emperor's shadow guard, Kyera.
Yep.
Hopefully we were pronouncing that right because we spent about 5 minutes before the podcast. Yeah.
But also, as far as the king mentioning like, oh, Hulk's a monster, it's like that's a huge theme throughout this too.
Yes.
Because essentially the Illuminati of Reed Richards and all of them, essentially they're like, Hulk, you're a monster.
Yeah.
And Hulk very much carries that baggage.
Yeah. It's a weight that he carries throughout the entirety of the book and even beyond the book.
And one thing to note that I thought was really cool that I have in my notes is the fact that the narration, a lot of it is coming from Hulk, not Bruce Banner, mind you. It's very distinct difference. It's coming from Hulk's perspective.
Yeah, very, very cool. So yeah, we meet Kyera, the Old Strong. She is from the stone people race. That's what they're called. They're called stone people. They are also not native to Sakaar. They came through the great portal. And they play a huge role in this book because their whole people have this prophecy of these two important figures that will shape the trajectory of this planet. Essentially, there's the Sakaar son, who is supposed to be like their savior. It's essentially like their Jesus or whatever. Their Moses, their Messiah, yeah. And then they have the World Breaker, which is supposed to be this person who basically damns them all, kills all of them. And that's a huge theme in this book as well of you have these multitude of characters who follow Hulk and go against Hulk, and they all have their own viewpoint of who he is supposed to be in the story.
Yeah.
Because obviously some of them are going to believe he's the Sakaar son, some of them are going to believe he's the World Breaker. But then you have other characters who think they are the Sakaar son or that they are the World Breaker.
Yeah.
And
then also just imposing their view on Hulk.
Yeah.
When Hulk doesn't necessarily hold the same view.
Right.
And also they posed the question of like, well, maybe the Sakaar son and the World Breaker are the same thing.
Yeah.
Like they might not be separate entities.
Yeah. It's just one person who has the decision of, do I save these people or do I kill them?
Yeah. Do I damn them all?
Yeah. So Kyra jumps in, stops the Hulk. The Emperor essentially says, no, I'm going to make an example out of him. He puts on his exosuit because the Imperials aren't like strong. the best way I can explain it is
they're like normal humanoids.
They look like, they just look like humanoid aliens.
They're red. They have like little spikes.
They look like
on their
Sith
chin.
purebloods from Star Wars.
A little bit. Yeah.
So he jumps down his exosuit and just takes Hulk apart because he's a tactician. Hulk is just, a brute.
And also he's still weakened from coming through the portal as well.
Yes. The Emperor just lays waste to him. And then at the last moment, Hulk gets kind of that second wind, jumps up, and he cuts the Emperor on his cheek. It's very 300 where Xerxes gets cut on the cheek because, of course, just like in 300, the people of Sakaar view the Emperor as like a god, like he's untouchable.
It's seen that the Emperor is the Sakaar son, essentially.
Right. And the fact that he gets hurt, kind of on public television, because television exists on this planet. Like it's televised, it's a sport. And people are instantly like, oh shit. Yeah. Oh, fuck. What the hell's going on? Kyra jumps in, takes Hulk down with his obedience disc, and he is immediately thrown into the Maw, which is like the toughest, most inescapable training ground for gladiators on the planet.
It's like either you become a great gladiator or you're fucking dead.
Or you die,
Yeah.
Of course, Meek gets sent with Hulk, and they begin their I call it training, but it's just slavery. That's what it is.
They obviously phrase it as like it's a training ground, but it's literally just like, again, Halo Reach, last mission, objective survive. Like that's literally all it is, and that's how you quote unquote get trained.
Yeah,
I mean, because like they're throwing everything at them, and I found it very strange as someone who is not like a Hulk reader and stuff, and seeing Hulk have a personality here. Like in the last like moment of this part of the story, he's like, "This is gonna be fun."
Yeah, he accepts the challenge.
Yeah, and it's a theme that's kind of shown through is like Hulk is very like willing to fight and stuff, but he doesn't really have a reason or objective as to why he's fighting. And that's a theme explored through this as well.
Yeah.
And there's times where it feels almost kind of like wishy-washy that I was like, Hulk is like super willing to like get down and fight. And then other times he's just like, not my problem.
Yeah.
Like that's your problem, not mine. And like, it's not to the point where I was like, this is inconsistent. Like the character development of this is inconsistent. But there was times I was like, well, you helped out these people.
Why? Yeah.
Why aren't you helping these people out? I mean, you're still getting a fight either way. Why?
Right. I think
it's small gripe.
I think the idea behind that is supposed to be Hulk does enjoy fighting for the sake of fighting because that's what he does. I think Hulk's wishy-washiness stems from the fact of like, on my planet, I was originally considered a hero until I lost control and started wrecking stuff. And then people realized that I lose control a lot. And even though I fought for them countless times, dying on some occasions and then coming back to life, they still treated me as a monster. And so he kind of, while he enjoys fighting just for the sake of fighting, he does not get the same pleasure fighting for others because he knows how that ends. And he does kind of mention that, where it's like, he talks about how, like, I fought for the heroes and all they did was send me away.
Yeah, I just, like I said, it's not like a super glaring, like, oh, this is an inconsistent character. It's just like when I got about halfway through, it just kind of popped in my head, and I felt if it popped in my head, it was noteworthy enough to put down. But again, it doesn't really, it's a super small gripe.
Yeah.
It's not like it does not really detract or hurt the story at all.
No, not really. It adds tension to the, what is Hulk going to do next?
Yeah.
So he gets sent to the mall and he begins his training. Around that same time, we also discover that there are Imperials who are kind of like resistance fighters.
Yes.
They are against the Emperor, the Red King. And they believe in like a free Sakaar, and they believe in the prophecy of the Sakaar sun that the stone people have relayed. At the mall, we meet a robot. I forget what the robot's name is. I can't remember. He's a part of the crew.
He's
barely.
Yeah,
he's in the beginning and the end.
Yeah, he's like a background character.
Yeah, but he does play important roles.
Yeah, he does.
But he's with me. He meets this robot. They say the robot's name eventually. I'll be able to tell you. And then the warden of the mall gathers them around, and it's this big group of people. It's a mixture of Hulk, Meek, the robot, Imperials, an actual rock person, and then a stone person, the gray people.
And all these individuals you start realizing they are becoming more prominent characters.
The warden, that's Bond. Yeah,
Bond.
Yeah, I don't think he plays a huge role in the story. Obviously he trains them, and then like something happens later on in the story.
He is and isn't. He's like a minor like kind of obstacle villain in the story,
very minor,
that like once things happen and we'll go. I don't want to like jump too far. Jump all over.
There's just so many characters in this story that have to get juggled around. We have to make sure that we name all of them, that we're like, wait, who is that? So we meet this huge group of characters, and Warden Vaughn is essentially like, your training starts now. At the end of this, only 7 of you are going to remain, and those are going to be the 7 that I train.
Yeah, and he basically is like, there's 22 of you.
Yeah.
And you're going to fight each other. And only 7 of you are going to live.
And then one of the Imperials speak up, and he's like, I'm a governor of, he names I
demand my trial.
And a fair trial. And he instantly gets disintegrated. And he's like, all right, now there are 21 of you. Now fight.
And then Meek's like, but there's only 16 of us here. And then the freaking brood creatures show up. There's like 4 of them or something like that.
Now, do you know anything about the brood?
Not really. Warhammer Mind came and was like, they're like Terminid kind of beings.
Yeah, they're like the Terminids, the Tyranids. They're supposed to be xenomorphs, essentially.
Yeah.
They even do the whole
Did I say Terminids?
You did.
Tyranids.
Well, Terminids are
I mean, Terminids are...
they are a thing.
I'm thinking Helldivers.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're basically the same thing.
They are, yes.
Yes, Tyranids.
But they were based off of xenomorphs. They even do the whole egg-laying thing. Yep. And they have an extensive history with Earth and superheroes in general. They're used a lot in X-Men as villains. There's a famous storyline where the X-Men go to New Orleans with Gambit because his wife is alive, and it is this drama, and it's called Big Brood and Little Easy. That's the name of the storyline, where Gambit,
Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, Gambit. Because Gambit's from Louisiana. He's from New Orleans. Yeah. He's from the Guild of Thieves, or the Guild of Thieves, if you're a longtime fan of the animated series. And him, Wolverine, and a couple other X-Men go, and they run into Ghost Rider. and then Ghost Rider teams up with the X-Men to fight the Brood, and then Ghost Rider gets infected with a Brood egg and becomes a Ghost Rider Brood for a little bit, and then he expunges it, and yeah, it's a whole fucking story.
Comics, man, am I right?
We'll do that story because it is kind of a funny story. Like, I wouldn't say it's awesome by any means. Like, it's a beautifully drawn book, but you know, 90s X-Men.
It was interesting to see for what kind of like species the Brood are. Eventually, like one of them kind of becomes a
character.
A character.
Yeah,
and, like,
I agree.
The personality of it and everything like that. I was like, oh wow, that's surprising.
Yeah. So yeah, we meet the Brood. That's when we're kind of introduced to some of the personalities of these characters. The rock person, not the stone person.
Think like the Thing.
The Thing. Korg. His name's Korg.
Yeah. If you've seen Ragnarok, that's the type of rock person we're talking about, but they are not the same.
They're not the same character whatsoever. I don't know what Taika Waititi was smoking when he made that character, but it is not the same character.
Like we were saying before, I was like, how do you read this Korg? And be like, yeah, let's make this guy the comedic relief.
Yeah. If anything, Meek should have been the comedic relief.
Yes.
But even then, Meek's not even that comedic.
No, he's not. He's actually a very serious character.
Yeah, he is. Korg is very stoic. He doesn't really like fighting. He has a lot of respect for Hulk because Hulk is extremely powerful. And Korg kind of hints at, like, you know, we've only ever met one other person that was strong enough to take us on. And we find out later on who that character is. They are just going buck wild. That's when the Brood gets introduced. We get introduced to one of the Brood members who then becomes a character as a part of Hulk's like team. And they just really just go in on each other. They're fighting, and eventually it's just 7 people. It's Hulk, Korg, Meek, Heroim, is that his name? The stone?
Yeah, that's how I pronounced it, was Heroim. We probably should have looked that one up too.
Yeah, probably. And 2 Imperials, a male and female. One of them, the female is the daughter of the governor that was killed before the combat started.
Eloa
or something like that.
It's Elloe, so I always just said Elo.
Then that's how we'll pronounce it. And then her guard. I do not remember his.
I think it's like Ski or something like that.
Yes. Spoiler alerts, he dies.
Really jumping the shark on that.
Really jumping the shark on that one. I mean, he dies pretty early.
Yeah,
in comparison to everything else.
He's not super significant. Yeah, and honestly, he's kind of a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Like, honestly,
yeah, a little bit. But like, kind of everybody in this book's a piece of shit a little bit, because there are times where Meek, you know, not to get too ahead of ourselves story wise.
I feel like we're doing this a lot in this one because it's so much.
Because it's so much to cover. But like Meek, there will be times where Meek does something that's really fucked up, or like really like, hey man, you really fucked up doing that. Yeah, and it's like fucking everyone else over. But then in the next panel, it's like him and Hulk are best buds.
Well, my defense to that, without getting too detailed, is I felt the same way, but then I had to dial back in my brain of like context of his character and the events in which have taken place to his species of people, and understanding his actions through that. Yeah. Like, because anyone who's been through essentially annihilation of their species, of their race, they're going to have some anger issues and judgment issues. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. His name is Ski, by the way. Like,
it is?
Yeah, that's his last name.
Nailed it.
It's Lavin Ski.
The old Iron Trap never forgets.
So they are the last 7 to survive, and they're in their cells, because they all share one cell, talking to each other, essentially like talking shit to each other, but also like
they start sharing like war stories.
Yeah, because they're not necessarily friends, but Korg is the first one to kind of say like, we will not survive this unless we work together, and through working together we must become friends. Yeah, and that kind of like inspires Meek as well to kind of like cherish that word friend, because he uses that word a lot throughout the story. Yes. And it kind of gives him his reason of fighting. The next day, Hulk and Korg and the rest of the group are taken outside to the lava pits, and that is when we are introduced to Margus, who is Korg's brother. Yep. Now, I interpret that as like that's his actual brother, but I could also see it as like it's like how if you're in the military, you view somebody as a brother, or like, you know, I view you as a brother because you're my best friend. You know, that kind of deal. I view it as it's actually his brother.
I agree. I want to lean because he's the only like named other individual of Korg's.
Because there are multiple of those people in the lava pit that they fight.
And he's the only one that gets named. And like, so I think it's more like he is actually like, I guess, quote unquote, biological. I don't know how Korg's people reproduce.
For real.
So
they are fucking rock people.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. So I'm assuming I am assuming that they are actually biological siblings.
Rock brothers.
Yeah.
So they come out and this is when they establish the obedience disc. Yes, it is to basically keep them in check.
Yep.
It also fucks with their heads.
Yes.
And the longer you have it on and the more you get, you know, shocked by it, it basically drives you insane.
Yeah, I think it's less about like how long you have it on, because they specifically mentioned like they fought against the obedience disc for too long.
Yeah.
Like it's not necessarily the wearing, it's the fighting against
the
shocking and like just
whatever it does to you.
Yeah. And resisting and like trying to take it off and everything, that it just ended up frying their brain.
Yeah, which these rock people have brains. It's kind of crazy. They also have blood because Korg like bleeds like yellow.
Yes.
So they start fighting these rock people and their weapons aren't working. And so Hulk just grabs Korg's brother and just fucking smashes him against another rock person, just shattering both of them. Fucking killing them both instantly, and Korg is like, oh my god, and he picks up like the dust of his brother because that's all that's left of him.
And Hulk's like, get good, kid.
Yeah, Hulk's like, this is fucking fun, I can't wait. So they fight. We see the insurgents again. They're, you know, spying on the mall, and that's when Vaughn takes the Seven. And I believe, he takes them to go fight Wildabots, which are basically a race of sentient AIs that are just like
robots.
Yeah, they remind me of I don't know if you ever played that game, Horizon Zero Dawn.
Never played it.
Kind of like that, where like the AIs in that are sentient.
Yeah,
and they kind of rebel.
I know the premise. And stuff. Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of that just a little bit.
I've always wanted to play them, but at the same time, like, for some reason, something's put me off from playing them.
They're okay. Yeah. That's the best way I can explain it.
I've been absorbed by Dragon's Dogma too.
Same. I'm playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, so. But they go take them to fight the Wildabots. They broadcast that live on television as well. And so the entire city is essentially seeing this green scar. That's what they start calling Hulk, the green scar. It's Green Scar, Two Hands, Sakar's son, and Hulku.
They call him the Green Scar because, one, he's green, and two, he put a scar on the Red King's face. That's why they call him the Green Scar, and that's the main name.
Yeah, that's what they call him.
The only other like name you see the most is Two Hands, and that's from Meek. More than anything. Yeah. But this is also whenever they go to fight the Wildabots, you get the iconic gladiator gear on Hulk. Yes. And
dude, there's this statue. Now, my local comic book store had it back before they moved to their new location. And they were in that other one.
And that like bigger plaza.
The bigger plaza. Yeah, the strip.
Yeah.
And they had this statue of Gladiator Hulk. And it was fucking massive. I can't even explain. Like, I'm trying to look at things in this room because I have statues and stuff.
Bigger in your Wolverine one?
Oh, it's way bigger than my Ronin Wolverine. Fucking, like, I think it's almost triple the size.
Jesus.
But it's considered the same scale because that's a quarter scale statue. The Hulk is also a quarter scale statue.
But it's massive.
But it's massive because it's Hulk. I'll look up a picture after we're done recording and show you this because I wish I had bought it. Because it was that fucking cool looking, but it was like a $2,000 statue. Someone, when they moved to the new location. They sold it on eBay, and the person paid almost $500 in shipping alone. Wow. That's how heavy it is. Yeah, it was crazy. It's probably the best looking Hulk statue I've seen ever.
That's bananas.
Yeah, I'll look it up and show it to you. I'll put a picture up for like the YouTube video as well, just that way people know what I'm talking about.
But yeah, he gets his iconic gladiator gear, and this is my favorite like version of like
outfit for Hulk.
Outfit.
I agree.
I love it.
I think what I could do with or without the helmet, like the feathered helmet, but the arm armor.
Well, later in the story, he loses the helmet. I think the helmet is only really used when, without going too far ahead, is when they're no longer like directly under Imperial control.
Right. And I think they do mention that where Meek is like, why do I not get any feathers? And I think they explain that like only strong people get feathers.
No, they said because we're not soft skins.
That's it. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, that's it.
Because they're the Brood, and because the Brood has no name. Eventually, it's just they literally announce themselves as No Name Warrior Prime or something like that.
Yeah. Because she says, I was called Warrior Prime.
Yeah.
That's what they called me.
And so both Meek and the Brood, they don't get feather. Why we're so focused on that, I don't know. But yeah,
we were just talking about the helmets. Yeah. So they whoop these things' ass. They kill them because there was this big Wildebot, and they were like
the Egg Breaker.
The Egg Breaker. Yeah, it's like, wow, that's a fucking really creative name. And Hulk one shots it.
Oh yeah.
He just absolutely devastates it, and everyone on watching it is like, oh, what the fuck? And they immediately get invited to, I'm going to assume, the Imperial Palace.
No, it's a pleasure ship.
Pleasure ship. That's it.
Because that was flying up ahead.
You're right.
There was that was essentially like their spectators for that event, quote unquote. Because as of late, it's like quickly, eventually stated with a scene between the Red King and one of his counselors or whatever, that they've been using gladiators to fight the Wildebots and other frontline things, but they've also been using it as sports kind of entertainment for the rich and wealthy. So like on battlefields, you just have a pleasure ship, live televising everything.
Very fucked up.
Yeah, it's very, very fucking weird.
There is something I should mention that we kind of glossed over. And there's a reason for this that they explain later on. Most of Sakaar is like barren, like a wasteland almost. Like there's no vegetation that grows on it. Mm-hmm. And, there's something that happened in the past that caused it to be that way. But that is a huge aspect of this story. The fact that the Imperial City is like the last vestige of civilization. It's kind of like Mega City 1.
A little bit.
From the Judge Dredd Predator book we did.
Yeah.
And whether that's out or not will be determined.
No, it'll go out because we need them. Yeah. It's a win rather than if.
But kind of screwed the pooch on that one. But it's very heavily implied that basically nuclear war happened on the planet, and whether that's actually what happened, we find out later.
Right.
But so it gives off a very Mad Max vibe in that sense.
Yes. And it's also like a core reason why the Emperor has so much power, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the Wildebots basically attack the places that have vegetation, that have actual life that's growing there. But those are small little pockets, and they're all controlled by Imperial, like settlements. So they get taken onto the pleasure ship. They're eaten. Ski gets escorted by some courtesans, women of the night, whatever you want to call them.
No, I think they're all. I'm doing this off my Spartacus television, and also just some historical fact of the fact that nobles would watch gladiator fights and stuff like that, and these men are big. strong,
big, strong, strapping, beautiful men,
and
big, luscious lips.
And it's also it's also stated in this comic that Van, he's like, Hiram and Ski, they have the look, not necessarily the spirit or the talent.
Yeah.
While Meek and the Brood, they're like, I don't know what the fuck is up with that.
Yeah.
But like he's telling Hulk, you can go a long way. But essentially, I'm pretty sure these are like nobles, imperial nobles, and they're seeing these strapping gladiators,
strapping young men,
and they want to ride that horse.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
They want to go a round or two in the Coliseum.
Yeah, exactly. And and one of them's eyeing up Ski,
and Ski gets laid.
Yes. Well, he looks over because Ski was a bodyguard for Elo's dad.
Yeah.
And so after the governor guy got vaporized, he's like, I am now sworn to protect you.
Yeah.
So he looks over at Elo, and Elo sees all this, and she's like, just go.
Yeah.
Like, and so he goes to blow the back out of some noble woman.
He's like, fucking finally.
And then he misses a whole bunch of shit while he does that.
Because the insurgents, Ski leaves, and as soon as the door shuts on Ski, the insurgents blow the fuck up, like a wall out of the building. And just are like, we're here. We fight for you, Green Scar. Lead us to the promised land.
And Hulk looks over him and is like, the fuck?
Yeah, Hulk's like, I'm eating.
Yeah, like you're interrupting my dinner, dude.
Yeah, he's like, will you fight for us? And Hulk literally just goes, forget it. Yeah. And they're like, what?
And then they immediately get like, well, Elo's like, come on, let's join them, let's help them out and everything like that. And they're like, nah, I'm going to finish my dinner first before I do anything.
Yeah. He's not even like, I'm going to help you after I'm done eating. He's like, I'm going to eat and then I'm going to go to sleep.
Yeah. And at this point, so I'm not a huge fan of Elo. And it's not.
I'm not either.
It's things that happen later is the reason why. Because this scene almost paints her in she's a well-meaning. She wants, to bring change. Rebellious. Yeah, she's for the rebel cause.
Yeah.
Things that happen later, you realize she's not that well-meaning,
Not really.
But the insurgents that show up, they get dealt with swiftly by some like death bots.
They call them the Imperial Death's Head.
Yeah.
Which played the Emperor made them, because I think they established that the Emperor was like a scientist as well, like he designed them.
I don't remember that.
Either way, they work for the Emperor. They're essentially like the end all be all. That is what you send in when you want something to. It's like how the Emperor would send in like death troopers in Star Wars.
Yeah, they were specific. I think if I remember, they were specifically made or trained or whatever to deal with, which later you learn about them. It's mentioned slightly, but the spikes.
The spikes, yes.
That's what they were meant to deal with and why they were made and things like that.
Yes. So they, like you said, the Death's Head, they come in and just wipe out the insurgents.
Yep.
And it's at that point, Elo gets arrested.
Yeah.
Essentially. And she's going to go stand trial.
Well, Hulk's like, they're like enemy secured. The Death's Head are like enemy secured as they're grabbing her, and Hulk's like, she's with us.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Yeah, and she's like, no, I'm not. And she willingly goes with him. And then immediately after that, Ski shows up with the noble woman. He just literally,
hey, what's going on?
Literally just got, like, the entire time this is happening, I'm sure he heard noise, but he's like, I got to finish first.
Yeah.
I already started. I got to end this. And he shows up, and they're like, what the heck happened? And they're like, well, Elo got taken or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then Ski, this is why I don't like his character, because Ski's then all bent out of shape because Hulk let her get taken and stuff like that. And he's like, and I'm over here like, Ski, dude, bruh, you were over there getting a nut off while your protected charge is getting like arrested and stuff. Like, and you're mad at Hulk. Like, I guess you could say it's like projected, you know,
maybe.
whatever. But still, it's like, dude, like, if you were serious about your charge of protecting her, you wouldn't have gone off with that lady.
Yeah. I always forget. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but Heroim.
Yeah,
he feels more like a bodyguard type character.
Yes.
He's Heroim. This is, you know, just kind of defining his character throughout the story, not necessarily jumping ahead. He is very much like the voice of wisdom in the group, where when the team doesn't know what to do next, he is normally the one that says, like, you know, as long as we band together and we, you know, we do X, Y, and Z, or we follow Hulk's lead, like, we can't lose. Yeah. He essentially gives the team like the morale boost that they need. And, you know, that's a part of his whole character. And like, because he's called Heroin the Ashamed.
Yeah.
Because he broke his oath, because the shadow, or the stone people, or the shadow people, I think they're called the shadow people.
Yeah, they're shadow people.
They believe in like oaths and bonds.
Oaths are very important.
Yeah. And that kind of also plays a part in Kyra, because she is Kyra the Old Strong, but that's what she calls herself. Her people call her Emperor's Shadow, and she's like an oath breaker essentially.
Yeah, she and also their people in general, they're very not zealots, but they're monistic. They very much heavily believe in the Sakaar Sun.
Yeah, very, very monistic. They're monks essentially.
Yeah, they're very like monk-like people, which also it's stated at this point as well. I'm pretty sure that because I think whispers have started already of
the
Sakaar Sun being Hulk and stuff like that.
And I will say, because you mentioned the whole the narration is done through Hulk's perspective. Yeah. There is also another narration that goes on along with that, and it's a song.
Yes.
It's a song / prayer, where it says, you know, Sakaar Sun, hear my cry, and it'll go on and speak of like different things that Sakaar Sun is prophesied to do. And it's cool because I do love the intro, and it goes along with the outro. The intro of the book says, like, this is the story of the Hulk and how he came home.
Yep.
And I find that really cool, and that does come into play later.
Yeah, and so like the shadow people very much believe in the Sakaar Sun.
Yeah, and I believe the shadow people are the ones saying that poem.
Yes,
they're the ones that are chanting it,
and their belief of the Sakaar Sun is very much kind of like being sequestered and like covered up, because it's mentioned. I don't think it's quite mentioned yet, so maybe I'm jumping a little bit, but that they've been burning like the old scrolls, talking about the Sakaar Sun and stuff.
Yeah, I think that has already been mentioned in this, that they are burning all basically the old scripture.
Yeah, I think it was, because I'm also thinking maybe it was suggested before a very important character, a left turn character, was introduced later.
So Vaughn, or at least it looks like Vaughn because he has the same eye patch as Vaughn, takes the group to their like sleeping quarters for the night, and Vaughn tells Hulk that, like, you know, he has a special guest in his room, and that is when Kyra, you know, is revealed. You know, just she's attractive. She is very obviously meant to be Hulk's like love interest. Yeah. Well, obviously right now it's very much like
I told Ethan before, I was like, this is my hear me out of this book. It's a very light hear me out, because I was gonna say I don't think anyone would disagree, but
so brave.
Yeah.
But yeah, she essentially tells Hulk, like, you know, give up. If you just leave, you know, this will all be done. You know, you don't have to fight anymore. Because she's essentially trying to save the Red King's like image.
Yeah, she's been. The Red King is super like impulsive and does not think far ahead, and
he's a brat.
Yeah, he's a brat. And she is definitely the voice of reason in that camp of like, okay, like he obviously wounded the Red King. You know, so he, whether the Red King thinks it or not, is a threat. Could possibly, maybe she thinks the chances are very low, but there's still a chance that the Hulk could kill the Red King.
Yeah.
So she's like, rather than risk it, even if it's a minuscule chance, maybe I'm better off just letting him go free and like find a peaceful place to live.
Yeah, just let him fuck off and not do anything.
Yes.
Yeah, that's essentially her whole argument is like, you know, as long as you're a slave, you'll never be free. Like, or because you injured the emperor, you will never be free. You'll always be a slave.
He won't let you be anything but.
Yeah, and she's like, I can let you go now if you promise to never come back, never show your face again. And Hulk is essentially like, because she basically calls him a monster, like you're a monster who does nothing but destroy and fight. And Hulk's like, well, you know what a monster likes. And he's essentially saying like, I like to fight. Yeah. I like to fuck up people. And then he goes and fucks two Imperial nobles.
I don't know if that's actually what happens, but it's implied. It's implied.
I'm looking at this panel right here.
It's implied. I'm not saying. Well, because he points out, because he's like, yeah, I'm a monster, but he points at them and he's like, but they know what a monster likes.
Yeah.
So it is implied.
Yes.
I'm not going to go out of my way and say that he did, but he probably sampled the local delicacies.
So we cut to the next day. At the grand arena of the Imperial City, where all of the group are present. They walk in, and then immediately over the Colosseum is an Imperial dreadnought.
Yes.
And they fucking napalm them.
It's like a mini nuke from Fallout.
Yeah. The Red King straight up drops a bomb on them. I forget what the name of the bomb was.
Hellfire bomb.
Hellfire bomb, yeah.
Or Deathfire.
Deathfire. Yeah. Drops the bomb. Hulk, tells Korg to shield everyone, and then they all pull their shields up to kind of create like a Roman or Greek style like barricade. And Hulk jumps up, catches the bomb, takes the brunt of it.
Yeah, he eats that nuke for like breakfast.
Yeah, he does. Now, I'm going to assume, because there is one thing about the Hulk that I did, kind of learn, is that Hulk has the ability to like absorb radiation.
Mm-hmm. Well, it makes him stronger.
Yeah. I don't know if he can do that with this, because I don't know if this is necessarily like a radioactive bomb.
Well, here's the thing. It's also established that when he gets madder, he gets stronger, but also he's regaining strength consistently because the effects of the portal are wearing off.
Yeah.
So add on top, he's getting madder, which makes him stronger, and the effects of the great portal are wearing off. Like, he's basically getting a double XP boost as the story goes. So the longer he's around, the stronger he's getting. And just basically at this point, he's strong enough to eat like a nuke napalm bomb.
Yeah. So the bomb goes off. All of the citizens and the broadcasters are all kind of together. Like,
they're pissed off.
What the fuck? Because like the Emperor has established very firm rules on the arena, on the gladiatorial games. And they're essentially upset that he broke his own rules.
Yeah.
And
because he's portrayed himself as like,
I'm benevolent.
I'm fair. Yeah. Like I follow the laws that I instituted. I'm no better than the normal people. Right. I follow the rules, and he just like it suits me to break them this time. Yeah. So I'm gonna fucking do it.
So the group survived somehow. Ski loses an arm though, and Heroim and Korg essentially rally the group and say like, we have to fight, and if this is gonna be our last fight, like we'll do it together. Yeah. And they go in for their final charge as the Death's Head is coming in, because they deployed them as well. And the Emperor is like, oh, this is it. They're done. And then that's when you see all little speech bubbles, because the Death's Head will say like enemy secured or enemy down. And then you just hear from the smoke, no, enemy mad. And then Hulk fucking grabs the Death's Head robots and starts destroying them. And just goes to town.
I will say Hulk's got some cheesy one-liners.
They're cheesy, but they're cool.
They're cool and good, but you can see it's like there's a little bit of cheese layered on there too, because like there's one where he has a sword when he's in the mall and he slashes something and he's like Hulk slash, you know, instead of Hulk's, and I'm like, okay, like it's
it's cheesy, but
it's got a little bit of charm to it.
It's just got that like 80s action hero type feel on it. So he wipes them all out. At one point, the Death's Head just stab him a bunch of times with spears, and he starts bleeding everywhere, and that's important for later. And then he destroys all of them. He defeats all of them.
Yep.
And we cut back to all of them in their cells, and Ski has succumbed to his arm injury because again he lost his arm.
Yep.
He probably died from infection.
It was essentially like shoulder down.
Yeah.
Too. It wasn't just like at the elbow. It was the whole fucking thing.
And it's at this point that they all start recalling their greatest losses, essentially. Yeah. The Brood talks about...
the scariest things they've fought.
Yeah, the Brood talk... that's where we get the whole, like, I have no name, but I was called Brood Prime, or Warrior Prime. And they ended up running into a creature in the middle of space that killed their queen. I think they say it turned her into crystal. And, like, she was essentially just trapped inside the queen for a long time until going through the portal. And then we go to Korg's story. And something about this section of the story that I really like is when each person tells their own story, the art style changes. And the cool thing about Korg is his race was invented a long ass time ago, like in the 60s or 70s. And so the art style matches that era. And he talks about the one person who was able to fight them. And that's when we find out that Thor was the person that fought Korg and his brother, Margus.
Yep.
And which is really cool because they used to be Thor villains. Like, I thought it was a kind of cool reference.
I thought it was really cool too. And I like the fact that after they're like, we fled the planet because we're like, oh, the natives here are super strong. We can't beat them. And he's like, but if only we knew he was the only one.
The only one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we cut to Hulk, and it's this really, really sad, like, story of Hulk talking about people that, like, he became friends with. And it shows the Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, Giant Man, or, Ant-Man, Giant Man, Iron Man, Namor, Strange, Thor, all of them, Silver Surfer, all the people that he considers his friends. And he was essentially like, but there was one person who feared me the most, and that was Banner.
Yep.
He said Banner was the smartest of all the heroes, but he was also the weakest of all the heroes.
Yeah. And basically Banner essentially tricked Hulk, but it was more Banner just went out by himself and essentially blew a nuke.
Yeah.
Like a genuine, like, nuke.
Now, this is a retcon of his origin, by the way. Because originally, he willingly nuked himself.
Yeah.
I believe. Either that or no, it was his friend was going to get hit by the nuke, and then he saved him, pushed him out of the way, and he got hit by it. And that's when they show, like, the gray Hulk, because Hulk was originally gray.
Yeah. And
then, they retcon that him getting hit by the bomb created the green Hulk. And that's when he essentially was like, they called me their friend, but in honesty, they thought of me as a monster.
Yeah.
And that's where we kind of learn the, like, this is Hulk's hang up, is everyone calls him a monster, and he plays it off as it doesn't bother him, but it does. It really bothers him.
It really bothers him. And he kind of feeds into it as like, well, if everyone's going to think I'm a monster, might as well, I guess, kind of act like one.
Meek's story is not his actual story. He just talks about, meeting everybody in the Coliseum and in the mall. His actual story gets brought up later in the story, and it's really fucking sad. But he essentially just says, like, he fights for friends now. Yeah. He considers the group his friends. And that's when Heroim decides to do, like, the ancient, like, shadow people pact.
Warbound.
Making them warbound, which essentially means, like, we fight together, we die together, we're friends.
We're not even just friends. Like, we are
We're a family.
Our fates are bound together.
Yeah, if one of us dies, all of us die.
Yeah.
And they all take the oath, they all say their names, and they become warbound. And then the Emperor, I think it's the Emperor. No, it is Kyera and a warden.
It's like the counselor kind of warden guy.
Yeah, he's like the right hand of the Emperor.
Yeah, I can't remember what his name is or if he's even named, but
they start hinting at a fighter, a champion who has been undefeated in the pits. He's the Emperor's greatest weapon, and some people believe that he's the Sakaar son.
Yeah.
And then that's when we get the last page reveal of the Silver Savage or the Silver Surfer.
Yeah.
And it's a fucking badass reveal. Again, I don't read Silver Surfer. I know barely anything about Silver Surfer.
He looks fucking dope in that.
He looks sick as hell. Even the kind of goofy, he uses his surfboard as a shield.
I thought that was cool as fuck.
Yeah. I think it's cool.
I didn't think that was goofy at all. I thought that was fucking sick. But excuse me. I think it's really cool because I didn't remember that Silver Surfer was in this because my brain just superimposed the animated Planet Hawk movie of them using Beta Ray Bill.
Yeah.
In that instead of because he's not in this comic. So for whatever reason, it just superimposed itself.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm like, when's Beta Ray Bill show up and everything like that?
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh,
he's not in
this.
Which is kind of weird. You think he would be in this?
I definitely think it fits. So when they did the animated movie, I'd say they did a really good choice to replace the Silver Surfer because again, Silver Surfer is kind of one of those characters that is niche, not your common casual reader or watcher is not going to really know who Silver Surfer is. They might, they're old enough and they had seen Fantastic Four and the Silver Surfer way back, that atrocious thing called a movie.
Yeah.
But everyone kind of with Beta Ray Bill's get up in that animated movie,
be like, oh, it's Thor.
It's you understand he's as Guardian, they're super strong.
Yeah.
He has a hammer, kind of like Thor. You can be
even if you don't know who Beta Ray Bill is, you would still be like, I guess he's like a Thor character.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And Thor's super strong.
Yeah.
I don't know who this horse dude thing is, but if he looks like Thor, he's got to be at least as strong as Thor,
Right. So they introduce Silver Surfer, and then we get a very brief history of who he is as a character. He comes from a race of people from basically a utopia. There's no war. There's no crime. It's peace. They've basically created the perfect planet that's sustainable. And he's like, I hated it.
Yeah.
I wanted nothing more but for our people to know what it means to struggle. It's kind of they kind of paint Silver Surfer in a villainous light, which I guess that's what you're supposed to think.
Yeah, I think I don't think he wanted his people to struggle. Maybe I missed that part. Maybe he did say that. But I viewed it as he wasn't satisfied personally with the way the world was, and he wanted to go out and experience other things other than essentially perfect peace. He wanted to understand struggle and fighting and pain and hardship. Yeah. So that's why he left his people. Yeah. Maybe he did want that for his people and everyone told him, hey, fuck off. We don't want that. But I'm pretty sure he was like, it's on a personal level. I'm going to go out and search for this and fucking find it. Yeah. He did.
Yeah. Because, what happened, because I think this is also a retcon, his planet was the next meal of Galactus.
Yeah.
And he was the only one who went to fight Galactus. Basically, his people gave up. And he was like, fuck that. And he went to go fight, and Galactus was like, oh, you have courage. Galactus is evil, obviously, but he has a level of honor. And he essentially says, he makes the deal with Silver Surfer where he's like, you be my herald and travel across the galaxy, across the universe, basically foretelling the planet's doom of my arrival, and I will spare your planet. And as long as you are my herald, your planet shall survive.
Yeah.
That kind of deal. And that's essentially it. We cut back to the Grand Coliseum, and that is where some of the Imperial slaves find that Hulk's blood is starting to grow vegetation
Yep.
in the Coliseum.
I can't remember what they specifically call the vines because it's like these vine plants that grow. They have a specific name.
An Elahal vine.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's ELEHA apostrophe AL.
Yeah.
That's what it's called. At this point, the Green Scar is also starting to become a celebrity, very much like Gladiator and Spartacus, where the people are like, fuck
really,
they're really behind him.
Yeah.
And he's
got the people's favorite.
Yeah. And this is the point where I was definitely like, oh, this is like Gladiator. Because in that, the people are so behind Russell Crowe's character that they even are like, oh, because I forget the Russell Crowe's character's name in that movie, but he's like, oh, he's going to bring back the Republic because, Rome was a republic and then it turned into a monarchy. And, obviously that didn't work out. They went back to being a republic. And, the crowd's cheering for the Warbound, because that's what we're going to call them from now on, the Warbound.
Their group.
Yeah, their group. And that is when the Emperor unveils his champion, the Silver Savage, or the Silver Surfer, which is what we're gonna call him.
And he looks fucking cool.
He looks dope as fuck. The mace, the shield, surfboard. He's got a great sword on his back. He's even got like gold armor.
Yeah.
On.
He just looks. He's fucking jacked.
Yeah, he's jacked as shit. Like, this is cool. Like,
yeah.
I love it. And even Hulk is like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What are you doing here? And he's like, oh, because they're all like, or the Warbound are like, you know this guy?
Yeah.
And Hulk's like, yeah, he's my friend. Like, this is my friend. And as soon as he says friend,
he gets
fucked.
It's like
up
that
by
Ragnarok moment.
Yeah.
They took that straight out,
which I don't feel like is as impactful.
It's not earned.
And this is coming from two people who don't read Hulk or Silver Surfer.
Yeah.
This feels like a friendship, especially the conversation they have afterwards feels like they are actually friends. Thor and Hulk in the MCU, obviously I don't think they hated each other whatsoever.
Right, but there was
no friendship there. Like Thor was not friends with Bruce.
I don't think Thor was really friends with anybody, to be honest.
Not really.
Because he wasn't around. He was there and then he dips.
He was there for Avengers level threats. That's it.
And then he dips out.
Yeah. Occasionally he'll come to Earth to come bang some chick,
Jane Foster.
Yeah, Jane Foster, and that's about it.
Well, he can't do that now.
No, she's dead. She's dead. She fucking died. Which is also a storyline they adapted from a comic.
Yeah.
That the comic is amazing. Jason Aaron's run on Mighty Thor, fucking awesome with Jane Foster Thor, and they adapted it for that Love and Thunder movie.
Yeah,
and it was not. What doesn't even compare. Doesn't. Again, Taika Waititi.
Christian Bale carried that movie on his back.
Even then, I agree, but even then, they still wasted Gore.
Oh, 100%.
Gore should have been like the next Avengers threat, in my opinion. Because like that's how strong he is.
It would have been dope.
Yeah, I agree. And then that should have led into like Null. Like, obviously, they'll never make Spider-Man the main character of the MCU because he's owned by Sony. But like, Gore, make him the next threat after Thanos, and then have Null be the phases 9 or whatever, 10 through 12 or whatever the fuck you want to call it.
I'm not surprised by the bad decision making there. I mean, look at half the shit they did after Endgame.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think a lot of it's good. It's just there's too much of it. To the point where it like gets muddled together and like
I agree,
some of
but
it feels rushed. Like I don't like the She-Hulk show.
Yeah.
I don't find it to be that good, but I do like some of the aspects of that show, especially the Daredevil stuff when they put Daredevil in it and like they both get to interact with each other. And then the Moon Knight show I thought was great.
I liked Moon Knight. I liked WandaVision. I just think after those first couple, like, Loki was okay. Like, they started out pretty strong.
I wasn't a fan of Falcon Winter Soldier.
Nope, I was not a fan either.
I thought Miss Marvel was okay.
Didn't even watch it.
I hate that they've now retconned her to be a mutant. Because because you never watched it. At the very end of the season, she has a friend who's like smart. He's not a superhero. He's just really fucking smart. And he does tests on her DNA.
And he's like, oh, you got an X
Yeah.
gene.
Well, he says like, it seems to be like a mutation. And then when he says that in the background, it plays a little orchestral hymn of the 90s X-Men theme.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's not great because Miss Marvel's an Inhuman. That's what she originally was when she was created.
I'd say probably the most recent like Marvel thing that's been good is probably the X-Men 97.
Oh man, that show is so fucking good.
Yeah.
That show is good.
I've seen the like first 2 episodes. I haven't.
Episode 3 is great.
I haven't.
You're gonna love Madeline Pryor. You're gonna love Madeline Pryor so much.
Am I? Because I'm not a huge Jean Grey, and I'm not a huge fan.
You like goth girls.
I mean, I understand that, but I'm saying like I'm not a huge fan of Jean Grey, and I'm not a huge fan of like clone concepts, really.
Right.
You know, like I feel.
Trust me, I know you don't like clones. I don't like clones either.
Don't mention Clone Saga to me, right?
You know what's funny? When we were out, the store that we went to buy Young Justice and New Mutants, there was a buy one get one half off, and they had both volume 1 and 2 of the Clone Saga omnibus.
That would have been a waste of fucking money.
Dude, I almost bought them. I was looking at them like, oh man, I could totally buy this. That's fucking massive, by the way. That is literally if you see over there, the New Mutants omnibus and the King in Black one, it's that size, both of them. So we'd have to read all of that for one episode.
It'd be great for like firewood.
We are so off topic right now.
I don't even care. I don't even care. I will take any chance I can get to trash Clone Saga, all right?
And guess what? Well, we're going to read it at some point.
You're going to have to force me like some freaking jigsaw level. Like,
want to play a game?
Yeah. Read this whole Clone Saga or die. I'm be like,
all right, I guess I'm dying.
Now. Like, I'm fucking dead, I guess.
All right, you want me to do it?
All right,
so Silver Surfer just starts blasting Hulk, like just running him through the ringer, really fucking giving him the business. And the Warbound, they jump in to help Hulk. And I will say there's a nice little aspect that Silver Surfer does not kill anyone. Like he still is somewhat of a hero. Like he's obviously not an Avenger, but like he has worked with the Fantastic Four and the Avengers to save Earth and to save, other planets. And he's very honorable, and he holds that honor. And eventually, the Warbound distracts Surfer enough for Hulk to take a spear and stab the obedience disc on Surfer. And Surfer's like, you broke my disc. And
I'm free.
He goes, I'm free. Thank you. And then Hulk takes both hands and fucking smashes him right to the ground.
Beats the shit out of him, and everyone has to fucking stop him.
Everyone, the crowd's just cheering, like, yeah. And Hulk just keeps going, and the crowd goes, yeah. Oh my God.
This is starting to get hard to watch.
Stop. He's already dead. Silver Surfer does not die, but he gets the shit beat out of him.
He gets fucking pumped. Yeah. Like, he will not forget that beating.
Yeah, no. It's like a Telltale game.
Yeah.
Silver Surfer will remember this.
Yeah.
And he'll cry himself to sleep when he does. So Korg, Korg stops Hulk from fucking killing the Surfer. And is essentially like, all right, that's it. We won.
We're free now.
Yeah, because the whole point of this grand game was they had to win 3 matches to earn their freedom. The first was the Wildebots, second was that Death's Head, and then third was the Silver Surfer.
Yep.
They win. The Korg calls out like, give us our freedom, because Korg is very reasonable. He's like the honorable one out of all of them. He's like, give us our freedom. We did what you asked us to do.
Fair and square.
Yeah, we won fair. We didn't cheat. In fact, like the only people who cheated was the Emperor.
Yeah.
And they were like, you may have your freedom, except Hulk laid a blow on the king. So now you must pass a 4th test.
Yeah, one final test. Yeah. But of course, even if they pass that test, there would have been another test.
Because like Kyara said, you cut the king, you will never be free.
Yeah, you will always be a slave until you die.
Right. And they pull out Elo and a bunch of insurgents from the pleasure cruise, and is essentially like, these are traitors to the king.
Kill them.
Prove your loyalty and you will have your freedom. And Hulk says, no,
Yeah.
absolutely not. Like, I will not kill these people. And even, Heroim says, like, he tells her that Ski died, protecting us. He essentially says, like, he had an honorable death.
Yeah.
That way she didn't feel guilty.
Yeah. Because she asked where he was at.
Yeah. And Hulk is like, I will not kill these people because they can't defend themselves. And Vaughn is like, okay, obedience disc time, and starts just shocking the shit out of all of them. And they all refuse to give in. Yeah. Like, they're all, because again, they're all honor bound or war bound or whatever. And
they're like, if
Hulk says no, we say no.
Yeah, and if he's gonna die from the obedience disc, we're gonna die from the obedience.
Which is awesome. I do love that character trait. It might just be me as a person. I really love loyalty.
Loyalty, brotherhood.
Yeah, I love those kinds of aspects of stories. And, when shit seems lost, the Silver Surfer, he doesn't have the disc anymore, so now he has the power of Cosmic.
Yep.
And Silver Surfer is fucking strong.
He basically just raises his hand, and every single
obedience disc in the area.
Because
it's not just the warbound, it's everyone. All the slaves.
Yeah, he raises his hand.
Even in the city.
Does his cosmic shit.
Yeah.
And all the obedience discs within the city. I'm pretty sure it's the entire city.
Yeah, it's the whole city. The shit just goes wild.
Yeah, the obedience discs come off. They break. They're done. And shit just starts popping off.
Yeah. All the slaves, it's even funny because Korg's like, we're free. And then Meek is like, what do we do now? And then Hulk says, what do you think? And he says, we tear this mother down.
Yeah.
And he starts fucking laying waste to the Coliseum. All the slaves just band together and just tear ass through the city. And they don't
get out.
They don't stay and like kill people. They just leave.
Yeah.
They go into the wilderness, the little bit of vestige that they have. And the Silver Surfer is like, when we first met, you wanted me to take you to the stars.
Yeah.
Like, you wanted me to take you away from Earth and find peace somewhere else.
Well,
and I couldn't do that for you then. Let me do that for you now.
He was like, are you ready to go home? I can take you home.
That's it.
And Hulk's like, no. At one point, there would have been a time I would have loved to come with you.
Yeah.
To like take me away.
That's
from
it.
that.
I had it flipped. Yeah.
And essentially at the end of it, he looks at Silver Surfer, looks at everything else, and is like, I'm home.
Yeah. I'm where I want to be.
I'm where I want to be. Like, which is super cool.
Yeah.
I would love to have like not a what if, but like an alternate storyline.
There is.
There
is a Planet Hulk what if. It's a continuation.
So bricked up right now. But you know, because like the whole lore and everything's like so good. I could read so much of this world and everything like that. Like, obviously, with this run, they wrap things up and stuff like that. But you could have so much shit.
So many more storylines.
So many more storylines.
Because there are characters that we never meet that are important players in the background.
Yes.
And even then, there are nations that are players in the war. Because we find out there's an active war going on against another nation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think they're called the Pharrellians or something like that.
Yes.
And we never see them.
Nope.
We don't
They're
know.
mentioned, but
They're mentioned. Korg and Heroim are supposed to be sent off to go make peace with them.
Yeah.
While the robot is sent to make peace with other people.
The Wildebots.
Yeah. And
that's
that's literally the end of the story there. So sorry for the spoiler. But and we never get to see what the other nation looks like.
That's what I'm saying. There's so much shit just that you could do. And it's even mentioned that this is only a continent.
Yeah.
Like, there's the whole planet.
Yeah.
Still,
yeah.
Like, there's so much stuff, and the lore's there. I would read so much of this shit.
I agree. If they just made Hulk like his own standalone, like this is it.
Like, how Spider-Man has Ultimate.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you have the main run, and this is their kind of like take on. I would love to have just an ongoing series of this planet, of this world, and just keep it going.
I agree.
And I think maybe I'm being presumptive, but I think a lot of people love this version of Hulk.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yes. This is, I've seen this touted as like, if not top 3, top 5 best Hulk stories ever written. And I would agree.
I love this version of Hulk.
I would say this is top 10 stories I've read.
I mean,
I've read a lot of stories.
A super fantasy sci-fi person too, and like this scratches that itch as well.
'Cause it's a perfect mixture of both science fiction and fantasy as well.
Very much so.
So yeah, back on topic. Hulk, like you said, tells Surfer like, I'm here, I'm home. And Surfer's like, I'm not going to stop you. If you're happy here, then that's all that matters. And he tells Hulk, goodbye. He calls Hulk his friend and he says goodbye. And Hulk begins to lead the slaves to freedom, from the Imperial City throughout the wilderness. And then we see one Imperial slave who stayed behind, or he did not necessarily stayed behind, but is like at the wreckage of the wall of the city. And he sees that those vines are starting to grow, and he starts to cry. And the people of the Imperial City are like, he's the Sakaar son.
Yep. And very much like historically and the show Spartacus, because Spartacus is a real historical figure. Mm-hmm. He led slave revolts, gladiator revolts in Rome and things like that. And this is, I feel, a huge inspiration for this story as well. Because I consistently throughout the story, I get vibes from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very cool. That was part 1 of this story, which is crazy. I think that was 6 issues. The next part
we're about 4.
About 4. Oh, okay.
4-ish.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. I don't know how they're cut up because they aren't distinctly stated what are issues and everything like that.
Yeah.
We talked about this. I pretty much considered a chapter because they have variant cover art throughout this. And whenever they popped up, it was a pretty good moment of where the story could that's like a closing moment. Yeah. And then you have a starting moment. So I considered that kind of like the chapters of this issue, but it's never distinctly being like, this is, beginning end, right.
That. So we open up with what the book calls part 2, which is Banner War. Really cool play on words right there. Obviously, Bruce Banner, he's going to war, but also Banner War is an actual term used in war. Mm-hmm. So in the art of war. We cut at the rebel camp, or I guess they're not necessarily rebels at this point, but they are they're free. So they will eventually become rebels.
They're surviving.
Yeah. And Hulk, everyone's asleep. Hulk is trying to get some sleep, and that's where he sees Banner. He has the vision of Banner. And then we get this entire dream sequence of Hulk or Banner seeing Jarella. I think that's her name. We are not Hulk readers. We don't know who this character is.
Yeah, I just kind of took it as it was.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to do a quick Google search, you can.
No, that's okay.
We're just kind of winging it, but I just assume it was a past love interest in a Hulk story.
Because they established that she's dead.
Yes.
So she had to have been a previous love interest in a previous Hulk story. Maybe one day we'll read that story and we'll be like, oh shit, that's where she's from.
Yeah.
But Banner sees her, and it definitely looks like he was in love with her, and so was Hulk. Like they were both in love with her. Or at least that's what the story makes it out to be. And essentially, Hulk is starting to have this dream of him becoming the king of her planet, basically marrying her, becoming king, ruling these people. And, the Warbound are all there, and he's happy. And then Banner basically steals her away from him. And Banner tells him, she's dead. And it's because of you. It's because you're a monster.
Yeah, and she never loved you anyway. She loved me.
She loved the brains, the actual personality.
You're just a monster.
Yeah. And then Hulk freaks out. He ends up falling, I'm assuming, to Earth.
Yeah.
And all the heroes are there, and they're all making fun of Hulk. Hulk freaks out.
Because Banner's everyone is just laughing at you.
Yeah.
For thinking that you could be anything more than the monster that you are.
Right. And then, he falls to Earth. The Avengers and the Illuminati and Spider-Man, all of them are laughing. Hulk tears Tony Stark in half.
Yep.
And then him and the Warbound in this dream sequence start fighting the heroes.
I like the fact because it shows him like splitting Spider-Man in half.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not like gory or anything.
No, it's portrayed as if they're like statues almost.
Yeah.
Because like Spider-Man has like chunks of rock coming off
him.
Yeah.
And I like Spider-Man's quip in this. It made me kind of chuckle. He's like, "Man, I wasn't even at this meeting." You know?
Yeah, it's like, which is funny too, because World War Hulk, I think something similar happens where Spider-Man is like, "Hey, buddy, like it's cool, we're cool. Like I'm not gonna hurt you. Like I want to just talk." And Hulk beats the shit out of him, and Spider-Man's like, "I don't even know why you're mad at me.
Yeah,
I didn't do anything to you." It's pretty funny.
But it just goes to show kind of like his insecurity.
Yeah.
Like Hulk's insecurity of everyone just not like thinking he's a monster, you know, like laughing at him, being like, who does this thing think he is to you know, I'm sure they would laugh at the fact that the Hulk has feelings. Like, you don't have feelings, you're just angry.
Right. So he has this nightmare. He tries to, you know, essentially tell Banner to fuck off. And Banner's like, no, you can't tell me what to do. I control this body. This is my body. And Hulk essentially lets Banner think that he won, because it's a constant struggle to see who's in charge, who's at the helm at all times. And the Hulk just lets Banner think that he won.
Yeah.
Because we get this sequence where Meek wakes up, looks over at Hulk, and it's Banner with Hulk's armor. And Banner's like, oh, I won. Yeah. Oh, I'm in control. And then Meek is like, are you okay?
He like rubs his eyes and he's like, 2 hands? Yeah. And it shows Hulk again.
Yeah, and Hulk's like, you know, don't worry, Meek. There are only monsters.
Yeah, he's like, no one else is here but monsters.
Yeah.
And then it shows Hulk standing over like Banner, who's like hunched up and stuff like that. I really wanted to touch on this with this particular part of like, I really enjoyed, like I brought it up before of like this, that, you know, it's Hulk and Banner. There's like 2 fully fleshed out personalities in one body, you know, I loved that they showed Hulk having insecurities and things like that, you know, like, because again, we're not Hulk readers. Our only intake of Hulk is through like the movies and stuff like that. And, you know, he is always portrayed as like Hulk just being the angry side of
he's a monster.
Banner. Yeah.
He's a mindless beast.
I loved that they showed this kind of almost dichotomy of like, almost like Bruce is the monster. Like he's almost kind of like an emotional abuser to Hulk.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't want to throw that out there kind of loosey-goosey like that, but it very much,
I would say that's pretty accurate.
like the way that this dream sequence is like Banner is very just emotionally abusive to Hulk of like just because Banner has such an anger towards Hulk of like, you're the reason I can't have a normal life and everything like that. But Hulk is like, you're the reason I just can't exist.
Yeah.
You know,
because you are a person
Yeah.
that existed before me. People want to get rid of me to save you.
I'm not even allowed to exist. Like my existence is a problem. Like you think you have it rough. Like you want to be normal. I don't even have a baseline for that.
Yeah.
You know?
Which is kind of interesting because I know in like other storylines, like future storylines and I think storylines previous, Banner and Hulk kind of come to an understanding of like, you know, we are stuck together. I can't die. You can't kill me.
Yeah.
I can't kill you. So we just have to kind of learn how to like just coexist.
Yeah. I really like this. It really brought, I think, Hulk from like, as a casual reader, and like not knowing who Hulk and his comics are, it really brought like me closer to Hulk as a character of like, I'm really on his kind of like side now. Like I really am rallying behind him.
It's going to be really interesting when we read World War Hulk. And
because we have all this context, and then you have all the heroes.
And then, because before we do World War Hulk, I would still like to do Annihilation and Civil War.
Yeah.
Just so that way we have the full context of what's going on in that time frame.
And for me and Ethan have both read the original Civil War.
Yeah.
But obviously we can go over it and stuff, and I'd like a refresher too.
Same. Yeah, because I read it when it came out.
Yeah, I did as well, because I remember when it came out, everyone was talking about it. I was like, I got to get my hands on it. And as a Spider-Man fan, him being like a very important focal point of that story, I was like, and also that's a huge focal point for Spider-Man's future runs after that.
Sadly, yes.
Sadly. Because as much as I hate the Clone Saga, anyway, we're not going to get into that.
Spider-Man's a very passionate topic at this table because we're both pretty, obviously he's your favorite superhero.
Oh, yeah.
But I would like to say that I'm a big Spider-Man fan. I love Spider-Man.
Spider-Man just gets done dirty and it makes me so fucking mad.
Yeah.
But we're here to talk Hulk. But yeah, so like, we both read Civil War, and again, we talked about it a little bit beforehand. We started recording of like Planet Hulk and Civil War happening at the same time, and you were like, yeah, they were like, we need to figure out a way to not have Hulk in this conflict, because Ethan was giving me a bit of a history on it and everything like that, but yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's
we'll slowly cover it as we go. Obviously, like we'll find out what Marvel stuff we're doing after Planet Hulk. We might do Civil War after Hulk. Obviously not the next episode, but like
because as far as like the DC stuff we're covering, we kind of have like a
timeline that we want to cover,
a timeline and a roadmap. Marvel, we've just kind of been throwing stuff, but I think it'd be cool if we do kind of cover like Planet Hulk, Civil War, Annihilation, World War Hulk, and that kind of be our mini roadmap of Marvel stuff we're doing.
Yeah, or at least important events that have happened.
Yeah, but we can discuss that outside the podcast.
Right.
We got a big book to get through, and we are going on a lot of side tangents.
We're an hour and 40 minutes in. So, hey, we said this was gonna be a long episode.
Yeah, it's
before we started recording, we were like, yeah, this is gonna be long.
Yeah.
So, the camp, the freed slaves. The rebels, I'm going to call them the rebels from now, because at this point they are basically like rebels. They're talking about Hulk and how he hasn't been the same since they left the Imperial capital, and he hasn't eaten, he's sleeping, he hasn't done anything. And Meek and the robot, they still haven't named the robot, or at least they have, and I just haven't seen it. They are basically telling these freed Imperials, like, stop doubting him. He knows what he's doing. He hasn't led us astray yet. Like, get off his dick. Like,
yeah. But also at the same time, Hulk has no idea what he's doing.
No, he has no fucking clue what he's doing. he's like somebody who gets thrusted a child upon him. It's I've never raised a kid.
We're winging it.
Yeah. And one of the Imperials is like, he believes in Hulk because he pulls out the vine. And
he's carrying it with him.
Yeah. It's like a symbol of like he is the Messiah, basically. And the other Imperial who's calling him into question calls the guy an idiot. And he says like he's not the Sakaar son. He, for all we know, he could be the world breaker. And that pisses Meek off.
And he's like, I hear he eats people.
Yeah. Yeah. And that pisses Meek off. And Meek starts like attacking the dude. And Hulk's like, it's okay, Meek. The more the pinkies talk, the hungrier I get.
Yeah, like kind of.
Yeah, and Korg and the Brood is right there, and
yeah,
it's a funny little moment. And the guy runs away. Brood's like, oh, I could chase after him, and he's like, no. At the same time, there are Imperial scouts for the Emperor who are tracking the escaped slaves, and he's relaying information to Kyra. Kyra is, like, hold your position. The guy's like, I really don't feel safe here. Can I please come back? And she's like, hold your position. And he sees the Imperial dreadnoughts hovering over, and he's like, oh, fuck. Like, they're about to bomb me. Yeah.
What's happening?
Or I don't think they're the Imperial. No, it's like these like squid things that have the Deathfire bombs. Yeah. And he's like, oh, I'm fucking dead. And then Hulk shows up and he's like, why are you running? There's nobody here but monsters. And then the bombs hit and just erase the dude. But Hulk and Korg are unharmed. Fine. Yeah. Because at this point, this is where they established the whole like, oh, Hulk's getting stronger.
Yes.
Like before, when he got
consistently getting stronger.
Before, when he got hit by the bomb, he was tore up. He was
hurt.
like, yeah, he was hurt. This time, it's like he barely escaped him. Kyra finds the remains of the scout and is essentially like, oh, they got away. And I believe, yes, it's at this point they find a like a port village.
Yeah, like a seaside.
Yeah, like they get all
lakeside.
their food from the water, which is now being invaded by the Wildebots because the Wildebots have developed or upgraded themselves enough to where they can, go through the water.
Yep.
The Warbound crash in and save the village. The headman, I believe that's the title.
Yeah, that's given him.
Yeah. Headman Char, that's his name. Headman Char basically welcomes them in and feeds them, calls them heroes. He's essentially like fuck the Emperor at this point because the Emperor hasn't given them any form of like protection against the Wildebots. Yeah. And we also established that the headman has a son, or he has kids. And that is when we find out Meek's backstory.
Yep.
Because he starts doing this thing called chemming.
Yeah. Which essentially is like a form of telepathy.
Yeah, it's a form of telepathy. It's how all the aliens can understand each other, I believe. Or no, they say that there's nanobots in the air.
Yeah, because in the very beginning, Hulk gets shot by by something. It's like a dart,
it's like a dart,
and it's they called it talkbots.
That's
very on the nose.
Yeah, very on the nose. But the Brood, she senses that Meek is chemming, and everyone can see Meek's memories. And this is where we get his actual backstory.
Yes.
Of Meek is born. His father is the king of their tribe, or the leader of their tribe,
or their hive.
Yeah. Of their hive, yeah. And he, he's teaching Meek about things, and then that's when Headman Char, who was originally part of the military, comes in and he says, your people aren't sanctioned to reproduce. Like, you've broken the rules of, our kingdom. And, Meek's father is like, he apologizes. He essentially says, like, we've done nothing but serve faithfully to the Emperor, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, he's like, we were given, because
oh yes, that's right, that's land.
Yeah, because the Char is also like, this land doesn't belong to you and things like that, and
you need to vacate.
Yeah, and Meek's father's like, well, I was granted special privilege and title over this land and everything.
Yeah, because his father is basically like a lord.
Yeah,
kinda.
Yeah. He's
just a really prominent native.
Yeah, and he's like, because I fought so well against in the Spike War and everything like that. And Char's like, well, shit's changed. Yeah. You're no longer allowed to be here.
Yeah, the emperor's allowed to change his rules.
Yeah.
And then, his father, or Meek's father's like, okay, Meek, let's go. And Char's like, no. I told you you're not allowed to reproduce. That child is forfeit.
Yeah.
And Meek's father's like the fuck he is. And Meek's father, goes to fight Char and then dies.
Yeah.
He gets fucking murdered. And so does all of Meek's brothers. They all die. Yeah. Do quotations. They all die. Meek runs away. He ends up getting captured at some point, becoming a slave. And obviously, what's done is done.
Yeah. And it leads up to him meeting Hulk and Korg and all of them.
Yeah.
He basically shows everyone his life story.
Yeah. And it's at this point, the entire Warbound are like, fuck.
Yeah, they're all like cracking knuckles.
Yeah, they're ready to go fisticuffs on these dudes. Which, I respect that. I respect that Hulk and the others are like, you fucked with Meek. You're fucking with us now.
Yeah.
And the Green Scar don't play.
And basically they settle that there's like some words bandied back and forth. Meek's like, we're going to fucking kill you all. And they eventually, I can't remember exactly, but they eventually narrow it down to where the Headman and Meek are going to duel.
Yeah, because it's Headman Char. He says like there doesn't need to be any further bloodshed. Yeah. Let's duel, just you and I.
Yeah, and for a second, they kind of almost make Headman Char kind of sympathetic of like, well, I was just following orders, and now I'm in the same boat. The Emperor doesn't care about me. Well,
they immediately fucking ruin that.
As he's getting ready to,
because he's showing his son.
Yeah, because he's like preparing his sons just in case he dies.
Yeah,
he's like, remember to polish the swords, remember to do this, and then they walk over to like this cavern hole or whatever. And he's like, remember to feed the pets, and there's like silhouettes. Now you can't quite tell what silhouettes are making out, but they seem very humanoid or it's like bipedal or and you're like, oh. Yeah, this guy is not like good. Yeah.
So they have their duel. Meek, he loses an arm, but he gets the upper hand.
Mm-hmm.
And Meek is about to land the killing blow, and Char's like, do it, and Meek can't. It's almost like he can't pass that hurdle of being a killer.
Yeah.
Or like killing out of vengeance. That's his thing.
And one of the big things, because he asked both, was it Hiram or Korg? I think he asked Korg and Hulk what they would do, and
Hulk said,
Hulk's basically like, I would basically
he asked both Korg and Hulk, and Meek essentially said, what would you do if they killed your entire people, like basically killed all of humanity? And Hulk said, I would never stop making them pay.
Yeah,
that's what he said,
which are somewhat words that kind of bite Hulk in the ass later. But even still, he's unable to kill Char until
that's when Meek is starting to sense like more chemming, and it's like kind of flooding his mind. It's flooding everybody, and then Hulk picks up this like, I don't know if it's like a boulder or if what it is.
He literally rips the ground.
Yeah, he just rips the ground up, and you see all of and you can tell it's the same hive as Meek, because Meek is like black, like obsidian black, and he's very unique in comparison,
because all the other ones are like a yellowish green.
But these are all these ones that are kept in that cave that you were talking about are the same color as Meek, and they were all being kept as like slaves essentially, which really pisses everybody off, because Meek thought he was the last of his people.
And I thought they were just going to straight up murder everyone. Well, they only just they raise the whole village. They keep people alive, but they keep people alive. One thing I will say, when the next time we see Char, because Kyra and one of the like lieutenants find the village, and you see a bunch of men, like Imperial men with Headman Char. He's still alive. You don't see any women or children. Yeah, that's true.
I think they killed the children.
Maybe.
Now, that could just be like the artist saying like, this is what's important. You don't need to see anyone else. Because I could also say, like, in my own head, I could say like, well, that doesn't really sound like Hulk. Hulk wouldn't just kill children.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of like, you don't need to see the whole village.
You just need to see this.
You just need to know that Headman Char, and we'll throw in some background people. Yeah. I don't think they killed everybody.
But they did burn the entire village down. And it is, funny because the lieutenant says like, have you seen the green scar? And he says, the greens, or he says, have you seen the green scar or any of his monsters? And Headman Char says, monsters, that's all that I see. And he's looking into the reflection of himself.
Yeah. And it makes you think he might like somehow redeem himself, but
no.
Spoiler alert, he does not.
No, absolutely not. Back at the Imperial City, like the outskirts, the outer wall, a bunch of rebels are starting to, wave the flag of the Green Scar and are fighting back against the Imperial army. And that's when the king, the Red King, comes out and starts napalming everybody.
Yep.
The Red King is not sympathetic at all.
No, he's a villain.
He is a fucking villain, and that there's nothing wrong with that. I'm okay with that.
I'm glad that they decided to go that route rather than because I'm all for a sympathetic villain.
I am too,
but I think it populates stuff too much and it starts losing its meaning. Yeah. Sometimes it's good to just, and I feel like that's just media in general. It like ebbs and flows. Like sometimes there's more just villains that are villains, and then that gets super bloated and populated in media. So you start swinging the other way, and it just a pendulum goes back and forth.
Yeah.
And right now we're in that camp of there's just a lot of sympathetic villains.
Yeah. Which again, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yes.
I find sympathetic villains to be some of the most entertaining to read because I can see like how they get to their end point.
Mm-hmm. But it's also good to just have a bad guy.
Dude that your hero can look at and be like, no, I am good. You are evil. It is my job to stop you.
Yes.
It's like a Batman Joker. You're never going to feel sympathetic for the fucking Joker because he's a fucking insane person.
If you do feel sympathetic for the Joker,
you got some problems.
You might want to talk to a professional.
Right. So, like, I completely agree with you on that. I like that he's not sympathetic. He is a fucking monster. He shows that he's a monster. He uses all kinds of tactics that, like I know that the Geneva Convention's only a thing on Earth, but he definitely breaks a few Geneva Convention rules.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing is like, while the Red King isn't sympathetic, I think how they make the question of, because they're slowly bringing this theme in of like, are we willing to be as evil as, like, are we going to do things like the Red King to accomplish our goal, or are we going to do better? Mm-hmm. And there is a question of that gets bandied about a while, especially as Meek's character arc starts to develop and everything like that. That question becomes more prominent of like, are we willing to employ similar tactics as the Red King so we can defeat him,
or can we keep our honor?
Yeah, and is that going to make us as it's like the
are you trading out one tyrant for another?
Exactly. And that's a theme also that comes through with without revealing too much, Elo as well, and things like that, and other, like you said in the beginning, you know, there's people who think they're the Sakaar son, there's people who think they're the World Breaker. It's this kind of concept of like making themselves the main character,
right? The main character of their own story.
Yeah, the main character of their own story, and it's just super interesting while still having a very not basic but like simple. You're the bad guy.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. So yeah, while the Emperor is laying waste, Kyra is kind of being kept in the loop of what's going on with the King, and she is essentially, without saying it, she's essentially on like a timer.
Yeah.
Where she's like, I have to bring the Green Scar. Yeah, I either have to kill him, make him go away, or bring him to the Emperor himself, or else the Emperor will not stop.
Yeah. And you can... the entire time that like the Hulk is kind of like out and about, you don't see a whole lot of the Red King. You see a whole lot of his actions.
Yeah.
And his actions are getting progressively... I can't talk. He is
professional here.
I totally can speak English. He is progressively getting like more crazy with his actions and things like that. Like, you know, again, like with the Gladiator where they're all there, he just essentially, like, I'm baffled that the crowd survived that like mini nuke that he dropped in the car. Like, it's just
because it didn't drop on the ground; it exploded in the air.
Yeah. So, and it, like, you think that's crazy.
Wait till he does the next thing.
Yeah, it's progressively getting fucking worse.
Before, he just ordered somebody to drop a bomb. This time, he's actually going out and napalming people.
Yeah,
setting them ablaze. Just
killing civilians. He doesn't give a fuck about anything other than killing the Green Scar.
Yeah. So Kyra's like, we need to fucking find this guy and bring him to, you know, so-called justice.
Yeah.
At the same time, Hulk is starting to rally the natives, the bug people, to his cause. They are kind of like the guerrilla warfare fighters of Hulk's army, where they try to ambush Kyra and her men to, you know, defeat him. At the same time, Hulk is taking a contingent of his people to the mall and freeing all the slaves in the mall.
Yep.
And even freeing like the war beasts and stuff like that. Yeah, he ends up getting like a dinosaur alien type thing.
And Van kind of he gets some comeuppance as well.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I do love where Hulk just turns to that huge monster, and it's that you think he's about to battle it, and he just turns, takes the obedience disc off and is like free, and the monster's like almost like a dog at that point.
Yeah,
he's like
Hulk pets him.
Yeah, pats him on the head. But I also really like in this moment too, you start to see that Elo. You can see she's kind of like that. She's still a noble.
Yeah,
like you can see her.
There's a little bit of classism, and
you can see her ambition starting to show and things like that.
Yeah,
and especially with how she and like again that question of like, are you trading one tyrant for the next? Because with Van and the other soldiers and stuff, she's like, fucking execute them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like, they need to die.
Yeah.
And Hulk's like,
no,
like they're defeated. They have no weapons.
And Meek is also on that same page of like, these people enslaved my people. They deserve to die.
It's the concept of the oppressed becoming the oppressor.
Right. And Hulk kind of, after what is her name? I'm so sorry. Elo or
Elo.
Elo. I will never get that. After the Elo situation, Hulk stops that, and then the Meek situation happens almost immediately after that. And Meek is like, these people deserve to die, and Hulk's like, if you're going to hurt these people who can't defend themselves, like, I'm going to stop you.
Yeah.
And he does one clap and it knocks everyone down. And then Meek goes to stab Hulk, stabs him. And Hulk is like, are you done?
Yeah.
We don't have time to waste here. Are you done? And this is kind of where it's like, sometimes it gets confusing for me with Meek's character, because Meek will do something like that. But then in the next segment of the story, he's like, you're my friend, you're my best friend.
Well, again, like I said before, there's like, you also have to take in the context of his situation. Like, from our perspective, it seems brash and really out of place, and like, why are you doing this? But imagine your whole species, your whole race, you thought they were essentially wiped. They've been less than second-class citizens for your entire existence. Mm-hmm. You've been a slave, a Colosseum fighter. Like, there's a certain amount of rage.
And your own people even see you as an outcast because you're eyeless.
They're like, I again, I'm with you. There's moments where I'm like, why are you being so like out of pocket? Like, you're making things worse, you're causing problems, but at the same time, taking the context of his life in, it's like, you know what? Yeah, I wouldn't be thinking straight either.
Right.
I'd be seeing red, So it's just like, I'm with you. Like, it definitely, like, from an outside perspective, it's like, man, like, why you're just causing unnecessary problems. But again, context of the character's life and circumstances, it makes sense. And I'm fine with it. And I do think it adds a bit of good tension between, like, I like the fact that none of the Warbound, while they can be yes men, they're not at the same time. Like, they're all their own individual people with their own individual feelings and things like that.
They kind of work as a council for Hulk. Like,
yes.
When Hulk doesn't know what to do, or if he makes a decision, they will usually chime in and say,
this is my thought.
Yeah, hey, this is my thoughts on this. Like, if you do it this way, like, people are going to die. Like, there's going to be more casualties, like, if you do it this way.
And I think that really helps with the character development and like, making their character more like, like we were saying with the robot, like, we don't even really remember his name. Mm-hmm. He's kind of in the beginning and at the end, but, he doesn't seem like a super, like, these guys being the council and giving their thoughts on it, and they're not all just yes men, their thoughts aren't all the same. It really adds character and, like, kind of makes them more singled out and profound. Of like, oh, like, you stand out because you are actually developing as an individual.
Yeah. I completely agree with that. So Kyra ends up returning back to the Imperial City, and with the Death's Head, she fights back the rebels, the insurgents inside the city, and then she sees the fucking Emperor start burning people alive.
Yeah,
and eventually she sees a bunch of civilians who are kind of like, giving up. The Emperor's gonna, incinerate them, and then she uses her old strong powers because her people, a part of their culture is they have this mystical ability to turn their bodies into like stone, or like it's like they're really durable. Yeah. Kind of. They're not invincible, but they can take a lot of damage. It's how she's able to keep up with a character like the Hulk.
Yes.
But it's very rare. It's
in more ways than one.
It's very rare, and it's very like nebulous as to like how strong her power is.
Yeah.
We do see it in action a couple times throughout the story.
Yeah.
It's cool. I mean, it's something. It's a power to give her. Of course, that power does come into play at the very end of the story as well, in a different way. But she essentially is like, you know, I will deal with the Green Scar.
Yep.
If you can hold off, I will deal with him, and I will make sure you never see him again. And the Red King is essentially like, deal with him and let it be known that I am the Sakaar son.
Yeah.
I am the prophet of the people. I am the savior of the people. And never forget who saved you from the spikes.
Yeah.
Which that will come into play here very soon, actually. Yeah. And he, you know, he sends her off again. Mm-hmm. And then we cut back to... Now, I'm assuming this story takes place over the course of like a year, maybe, because it's now snowing.
I think it's also location-based as well. I think it's both, because they're now in like a mountain range kind of called the Steppes.
Yeah.
And Meek starts becoming, like, starting around this area, Meek's starting to become a very major player and character in this story, which I find surprising, not because, you know, Meek's a bad character, but because typically as people, you know, we like seeing ourselves in stories. Mm-hmm. So like usually we have more humanoid and things, but obviously Meek is very bug.
Yeah. He doesn't look like us.
Yeah, he doesn't look like us. That's me just being extra philosophical for some reason, but you know, you get my point.
Yeah.
But you know, the entire in whenever they free his hive brothers or whatever, you know, they start referring to him as Hero Meek. Yeah. Hero Meek. And, you know, Meek's wanting to fight for his hive brothers, get vengeance and justice, quote unquote, and stuff like that. And Hulk's not really indulging that.
Yeah, because Hulk doesn't care about getting vengeance. He cares about peace.
Yeah.
Now, the way people are perceiving it and the way that it's supposed to be perceived by the reader is Hulk is fighting for his own peace.
Yeah.
But obviously things change and his true intentions become revealed.
Because I mentioned earlier, like, there's times where you're not really sure what he wants. And I think this is kind of like with Meek and him, this is kind of capitalizing on that. Of like, Hulk's not quite sure what he wants.
Yeah.
He obviously wants to survive, hence why he's like, you know, fighting against the Imperials and things like that. But Meek is like, I need, you know, more power and things like that to like actually do something. And he goes into like a cocoon-esque thing, and Meek becomes jacked.
Yeah, he kind of goes into this like metamorphosis, like chrysalis.
Catalyst,
yeah. And he evolves into basically what his dad was. Like. Yeah, what his dad looked like. And that's when his hive brothers and the other natives that are outside of his hive start calling him King Meek.
Yep. Which
plays in a part in this whole like, well, now there's multiple people who are kind of like, well, maybe I'm the Sakaar son.
Because his people start going, because I forget who, but someone like I think one of the slaves or whatever refers to Hulk as the Sakaar son, and one of the hive brothers of Meek is like, no, Meek's Sakaar son. He fights for us and things like that. And
so everyone's starting to get their own version of what the Sakaar son is. Yes.
Which is cool because it's also mentioned that through like Heroim or whatever, that it is taught that you find the Sakaar sun from within.
Yeah, because that's what his people believe.
Yes.
That the Sakaar sun is found from within, not without.
Yeah, like, and whenever it's revealed, because again, you get people's backstories and things throughout, it is eventually revealed this kind of concept relates to why he is called Heroim the Ashamed.
Yeah, the Ashamed. So with Meek's evolution, there starts to become a lot of infighting between Hulk and Meek, which eventually causes a small skirmish between the two. And it's cut very short by Korg, who is essentially like, stop this.
This is bullshit.
This is bullshit. Hulk has way bigger problems to deal with than this right now.
In fact, we all have bigger problems.
And Hulk and Heroim, or not Hulk, Korg and Heroim, at this point, they're essentially like, our fight is done.
Yeah.
Like, we are free. Like, we have no need to wage war. We will go. I'm assuming their plan is to go, like, because they say they're going north.
Yeah, they're going to, like, leave the nation or whatever, find basically a hole in the ground to hide and make their society or whatever.
And so they take the people who don't want to fight or can't fight, and they essentially say, come with us, we will protect you. And they leave. Hulk says goodbye to them.
Because at one point, they're both kind of like fighting over, like, Hulk, you should come with us. No, Hulk, you should come with us.
Yeah. And Hulk's like, I don't want to go with anybody. I just want to be left alone. And the people are like, well, you can't. Yeah. Like, you have to choose one or the other at this point.
And then he's basically like, well, then if that's the case, I'm going to choose to fight. Yeah. Because that's what I'm good at.
That's what and Meek even says that, like, that's what he's made for doing.
Yeah.
So Korg and Heroim go north, while Hulk, Elo, and Meek go south. Because south is where the Imperial capital is. Mm-hmm. And it's at this point, they are confronted with Kyera and her band of soldiers, and Hulk.
You can feel the sexual tension between these
They all shoot arrows at her. They bounce off because she uses her old strong powers, and they meet in the middle of the field. She gives the backstory of the spikes.
Yes,
the spikes are essentially the Flood from Halo.
In my notes, I literally reference Resident Evil a couple of times. Yeah. Because that's what it reminded me of. Yeah. At least the employment of the spikes in the current times. But you're right. In like the past, it's like the Flood. Yeah. Like they just are like, they're out to consume everything and stuff like that.
Obviously, we learn more about the spikes as the story progresses, and they become way more complicated than the Flood.
Yes. But you get her backstory, and
essentially her entire people were wiped
out by the spikes. And she says,
her tribe.
She says that the Emperor, the Red King, he came essentially looking for her. Yeah. But she doesn't state exactly how he did that because it's not known outside her tribe who's going to be the old strong or whatever. Yeah. But what the Emperor did, the Red King did, is he let the spikes, he knew the spikes were coming and were going to annihilate her village. And he knew that there was only going to be one person that survives, and it was going to be the old strong. Yeah. So he let the spikes destroy and wipe out the village so he could find the old strong, so he could make them serve under him.
Yeah, basically become a shadow guard. Yep. Or, his royal protector.
And so he lets the village wipe out, and she's very much like, I know the Red King is not a good person. Yeah. But I'm like, I don't think she says it, but she's essentially the person like, I'm the one to keep him in check. Like I'm his voice of reason. Right. And right now, because of you, I can't be the voice of reason. Yeah. He's like going crazy because of you. Yep.
So they have their fight. They're pretty evenly matched at this point.
You hear their clash. Yeah. Like throughout the entire nation.
Yep. That's what actually causes Korg and Heroim, who are at this point miles away.
Yes.
To like turn back and go, oh fuck.
Yeah.
They must be fighting.
Yeah. And the freaking Red King hears it all the way in the
Imperial capital.
The Imperial capital.
Mm-hmm. And they just beat the shit out of each other. Like they are both bloodied and bruised on the ground. They've created a crater where they were, because it was a field when they started. Yeah. It's now a crater that they're laying in. And they go in for like one final attack on each other. Obviously, as Hulk is bleeding, the vines are growing, and everyone's seeing it. And even the Imperial soldiers are like, "Oh my god, it's true. He is the Sakaar son." And then they look up. Heroim and Korg are like, "Oh my god!" And they see a spike ship about to land on the planet. And the spikes have been gone for decades at this point.
Yes.
It lands. Spores start pouring out and infecting all the Imperial soldiers, and they basically turn into flood. They turn into mindless zombies that if you get hit by them, you get infected.
Yeah, they infect all biological creatures. And this is where in my notes I reference Resident Evil. I'm like, this place, biological warfare, this place is about to be like Raccoon City.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yes, it is.
Because it is biological warfare, because the Emperor has access to the ships that the spikes are on, and he takes one and sends it crashing onto the location and releasing the spikes. And at this point, what's her name again? Kyra, that right?
Yeah,
Kyra. She's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, she is.
But she doesn't realize that the Emperor sent it yet.
Right.
She's just like, oh, fuck.
They're back.
They're back. Like, why now of all time?
Yeah, this is literally the worst possible time.
Yeah. Yep. And so, like, Hulk and her kind of have, like, a truce at this moment of, like, this is really bad for both of us. We're going to have to stop killing each other and, like, help each other survive.
Yeah.
And the entire time, the Red King's, like, on speakerphone.
Oh, yeah, talking to Kyra. And I will say during this, Hulk, because they're both at the front lines of this landing, and they're both going to fight, and Kyra's like, I will handle them.
Yeah.
Or Hulk says, I'll take care of it. You go. Kyra stabs him in the foot and says, no, I'm going to deal with them. Basically being like, you might be the only chance we have of stopping these things. And Hulk's like, fair enough. And so he grabs her and then just fucking throws her to the nearest village. Like basically the next village over that's going to be in the like trajectory of the spikes. And
I saw it less of like, he's going to be the only hope. I saw it more as of like, you can be infected. I've been proven
to be resilient to
resilient
it.
To it. You know, that's how I saw it. Because I think she also understands how dangerous Hulk is, and she's probably thinking, dude, if he gets infected,
we're done.
We have a spike on our hand that we just would not be able to deal with. Yeah. It'd be the end of the world.
Now he does end up getting infected.
But he rips that fucking shit out.
Yeah, because what they do is they burrow in and basically like gestate inside of you. He just rips his own chest open and tears it out.
Yeah.
Fucking crazy.
And the art of him like first getting infected and he like turns.
Yeah.
Sick. It's like the spike is like a little bit of like you said, the flood, but there's like some body horror to it as well, which is really cool.
Because you see the tendril spikes like coming out of his ear, one out of his eyeball. It's fucking weird looking.
It's cool.
Yeah, I agree. So they essentially haul ass to the nearest village that Kyra was thrown to.
Yep. And they all have like fire weapons.
Yeah, they have old technology flamethrowers. Yeah. Like, because they even mention like these flamethrowers are older than us.
Because really, the only thing that works against them is fire.
Yeah. So they all start running. Korg and Harim notice the Imperial dreadnoughts starting to fly towards Hulk, and it's at that point they're like, we can't just abandon them.
Yeah.
Like, they don't say it, we don't find out, but that's basically their thought process.
And also, like, this entire time, like I said, the Red King's on speakerphone, and Hulk and Kyra start working together, and he's like, oh, you're working with the enemy now? Like, he's getting all bent out of shape.
Yeah.
And she's like, sir, we have the spike on our hands. I will deal with the green scar as soon as the spikes are dealt with. We need it, the Imperial dreadnoughts and stuff. And they're running from the spikes, and the Emperor's like, oh, don't worry about it, honey. I've already sent some out there.
Yeah. Like preemptively.
Yeah. Which is a great sign, you know?
Yeah. I think the Imperial dreadnoughts start dropping Deathfire around the village to kind of trap the villagers in.
And yeah, basically, like, he wants the spikes to kill the Hulk. And it's at this moment that she realizes, because I think she's like, oh, you knew. And he's like, yeah, I sent them there. Like, he fully admits it to her.
I sent them there the first time when they first invaded, too.
And it's like, he's like, you know, you had your chance to kill him. You couldn't. And now you're not useful to me anymore. Yeah. So I'm going to have the spikes wipe you all out, and then I'll clean up the mess.
He is a son of a bitch.
He is. I'm glad he is a villain that you can thoroughly just enjoy to hate.
Yeah. Another cool thing, because Hulk is just... Because he is leading the charge, because Hulk ends up creating like a pathway for the Warbound to go through. And Hulk's leading the way because he knows that he can be infected and hold the infection off as long as possible.
Yeah.
And as soon as he gets there, he looks at Kyra and he says, "Woman, burn me." And because there's like a little drone that the Emperor is speaking through to Kyra, and he's like, "You better not, don't you dare." And then Hulk's like, he's got the spikes coming out, and he's like, "Now, fucking do it now!" And she just fucking hits him with the flamethrower.
He just eats it, yeah.
And he says, "Thanks, that was starting to itch," which is funny. I think that's a good line.
I laughed at it. I chuckled, and
they both grab flamethrowers and they start burning shit.
They're cooking.
Yeah.
At the same time, we get into the village, and
this is like the Imperials. I don't think they're evil. Let me just say that. As a people, I don't think they're evil. I think they're misguided because they have a fucked up king. But it's almost like that, like you are complacent with evil and you are doing evil acts out of like whether it be fear or loyalty or honor, which makes you just as bad in some ways.
I agree, but I also disagree in the sense of we can get super like down the rabbit hole philosophical.
It's very philosophical, yeah.
But like in brief summary, my perspective is that morality is subjective to the society you're in.
I agree.
You know,
I agree.
Like I'm sure back in the day, Romans, they had no issue with it. They thought it was normal.
Well, yeah, you can say that about anything back. I mean, shit, even like 200, 200 years ago.
You know, it's morality. Again, can get super philosophical, so we'll try and keep it brief. But it's like morality is subjective to society,
and what the standards are.
Do I think people can be born evil? No, not necessarily. Like, I just think society holds very much a hand in what is believed socially acceptable and moral and what is not.
I can agree with that, yeah.
And I think in this society, we are judging it from our world's term and real life and everything.
Yeah, and like our own personal beliefs.
Exactly. And to these fictional alien society... obviously the writer is like, this is bad.
Yeah.
He's not trying to be like, well, it's okay because no, it's clearly portrayed as being bad. But I think the civilians, it's portrayed as like, well, the civilians, this is their society.
Yeah. They weren't taught that this was bad.
Exactly. And when you have an immoral king and an evil king who says, yeah, they're slaves. Fuck them, like take them captive, make them fight. It's okay. Yeah, they're going to be like, okay. And if I say it's not okay, I'm fucking right there with them and dead. So,
right.
It's a little bit of both.
Right. The reason why we're saying this and I made that comment is because as soon as Meek and the rest of his hive enter the village, they start smelling something that's very familiar to them. Kimming. They run into like this central pillar, and the civilians, the Imperial civilians are like, you can't go in there. No. They bust in and they find the last living queen of their whole species. Not just Meek's hive, their whole species. And
they've been like essentially having her produce eggs for food.
Yeah. They've been forcing her to have eggs and eating those eggs.
Yep.
so fucked up.
It is. It truly is.
Really fucked up. And it makes you as a reader, at least for me, it makes it very hard to feel bad for these people when they start getting fucked up by the spikes.
Yes and no.
Like, because it's like you said, society does play a huge part of that. And I agree with that. At the end of the day, for me, it is hard to overcome that hurdle of this is a sentient creature that did nothing wrong to you.
Right.
And you are hurting them.
Right.
It's wrong.
I think I feel differently because I very much like going to that philosophical place.
Right.
And so for me, again, to bring up, like, you know, even if they felt it was immoral, they can't speak up because, one, they'll die. And also, they're trying to survive.
Right.
So it's like, what kind of evil are you willing to do when you're trying to survive?
What's the lesser of two evils for them?
Essentially, you know, it's just kind of like sometimes people do awful things just to live another day.
Yeah, just to get by. I mean, shit, The Walking Dead should have taught us that.
Shit, real life example, you know, the rugby team that crashed in the mountains, you know, like we view cannibalism as wrong, and it is. It's fucked up.
But they didn't have a choice.
They didn't have a choice, and they had to do it to survive. And people will do awful things to survive.
Yep.
It's because at the end of the day, we're animals. Rant over.
Yeah. That is a whole conversation we could get into.
Oh my goodness.
But no, that I think you made a very good point, and yeah, I think that's essentially it. Back to our imaginary picture book. So the queen is saved.
Yep.
Meek is flipping shit. He's like
wanting to go on a murder spree.
I'm going to kill not just the spikes, I'm going to kill you as well. I'm going to kill all the pinkies here. And, you know, Hulk is like, we don't have time for this. You know, that we need to survive. Like, we are going to die. And then the queen is immediately stabbed by a spike and is infected. And
they kind of managed to save her.
Yeah, kind of. They hit. Hulk jumps down and immediately rips the spike out, and one of the natives burn it and kill it. They get as many people as possible loaded onto these like
flying discs.
Because at this point Korg and Haroim
they come in.
Haroim.
Because the fire's ever getting closer to the village and the spikes.
Yeah.
And they're like pretty much at the walls of this village. Like there's really nowhere to go.
Yeah. And the dreadnoughts are starting to pull in, and they're going to just start dropping bombs in the village at this point. They start loading as many people as possible, and Kyra finds a child who is terrified, scared, doesn't want to die.
Oh my goodness!
And at this point, the Emperor says, like, "You've outlived your usefulness to me. Like, you can't kill the Hulk. Like, make your peace."
Yeah, and the dreadnoughts are right over the village at this point.
Hulk has gotten out. Like, the Hulk and the others have gotten out, but Kyra stayed because she's trying to save as many people as possible.
And there's still civilians left in there.
Yeah, and
because they're like, weren't they like, we'll come back?
Yeah, because they had filled everything.
Yeah, they're like, we'll come back. And she's like, I'll stay and keep defending them because the spikes are still here.
Yeah. The child says, like, I'm scared, and Kyra says, just close your eyes, and then the death bomb drops on top of them.
And you get a panel by panel of just like
the child turning to dust.
The dust.
Yeah,
and
like in her arm.
Yeah, and it's so sad.
Yeah. And then Hulk, reaches out an arm to her, and, she is like, I've lost everything. Not only have I lost my family, I lost my title, I've lost my people, I've lost, I have nothing left. And Hulk's like, that's not true. Like, you have us.
Yeah.
Like, you are warbound now. And then Hulk, he sees the pleasure cruiser, because the pleasure cruiser people are like,
they start announcing everything.
Yeah, well, they are even like, this is really fucked up. Like, they're even like, this is not right. And Hulk, he asked them to record him, and he's where is he? He says, you tried to kill us with swords and spears. You tried to kill us with bombs. You tried to kill us with stupid spikes. And then he says, the whole world's getting this. Or no, he says, but that just made us mad. So get ready, Red King, because now we're coming for you. Like, Hulk at this point is
like,
pissed.
You're fucking done.
You're done. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, Hulk is still a hero. Like, he does care about people.
Yeah.
He's just very,
he
doesn't
wasn't
express it.
He wasn't necessarily invested at first. At first, he was more concerned about getting free and just surviving, getting away from this. But then, obviously, after seeing the things he has,
there's no way he can't look away.
He's now like, it's tugging on that hero bone of his of like, I want to help people, but every time I help people, I hurt people. And at this point, he's like, you know what? Fuck it.
I'm going to hurt somebody.
I'm going to hurt somebody, and it's the fucking Red King. And that moment for me is super hype. I love that moment. I just like call outs. Like when the hero calls out the villain, like it's always dope to me.
Yeah, I agree. So Hulk and the survivors of this village, and basically everybody's regrouped. The Korg and Heroim decided like, we're not leaving anymore. Like you need us. Because if we hadn't been there, like you all would have died.
Yeah.
And they are essentially licking their wounds while still being chased by Imperials and Spikes.
Mm-hmm.
And
like
Hulk,
they're on their heels. Like they get to rest a couple hours and they gotta move.
And eventually Hulk, the queen is also like the native queen is injured. She is barely holding on. And, Hulk is like, I'm done running from these people because the Spikes and Imperials are starting to close in on them. And he smashes the ground and lava everywhere just starts pouring out, killing Death's Heads, killing Spikes, killing Imperials, just all kinds of shit, just going crazy.
And then, again, like with the Sakarsun stuff, the Imperials are seeing this and like, he's breaking the world.
Yeah, he's the world breaker.
Yeah, they're like, and again, it brings up that question: is the Sakarsun the savior and the world breaker in one form? It again brings up kind of that question.
And after they're done, fending off the Spikes Imperials, at this point they now have a moment to rest.
Yeah, before we continue, I like the line he has where he's like, I have a feeling, and then he breaks the ground and the lava pours out, and he's like, that Spikes don't surf. And
and everyone around him's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
And then I also like that he like grabs Kyra and like jumps up in the air, and Korg's like, I know what's going on there. He's because he like brings up like, man, how do you top that on a second date or something like that? I was like, oh my gosh.
So after that fight, the queen, because she is still infected. Yeah. Because like they basically established like there are going to be some times where yes, you can kill the parasite,
but if it burrows too deep,
the infection's still going to be there.
Yep.
And it essentially creates a new spike. Yes. So she gets infected. Everyone is like, everyone wants Hulk to kill her.
Yep.
And Meek says no, and he does it himself.
Yep.
And now Meek
he's like, my people are doomed.
Yeah, because she was the last queen. There are no more queens. They're all male.
Yep.
And he's like, this is it. I'm the last. I'm the last ruler of my people.
Yep.
No one else will ever.
And he's like, these hivelings are the last. Of them. Yeah. Like once they grow old and die, we're done.
We're done. Yeah, we're done. And at this point, they're kind of splintered. I do also think at this point, they haven't said it yet to Elo or Elo.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, I'll go ahead and just say it now because it's not a huge plot point, I guess. Some of the Imperial resistance, the people who are defecting from the Imperial, capital, basically tell Elo that, the Red King has outlived his usefulness. The people now want
a queen.
Yeah.
Which turns out to not be true.
Yeah. No.
But at this point, everything's kind of splintering.
Yeah.
Like Meek's basically wanting to take his hive and just be like, you know what, we're dead anyway. Like, let's go on this suicide run. Let's attack the capital. Like, I'm done running, and the hive, like everyone in the hive's like, fuck yeah. Like if we're going to go out, we're going to go out, we're going to go out swinging. And again, like you have Elo again showing her ambition and like that she's still a noble because she still doesn't necessarily respect like Meek and stuff like that. They're just allies by circumstance, you know, and it shows later because they start to have conflict as well, you know, and she, you know, Meek's calling her a pinky.
Yeah.
And, you know, she's going like, you stupid bug and everything like that. But that's later. But, yeah, like everything's falling apart kind of.
Yeah.
And they're waiting on Hulk to like just make a decision.
Yeah. And at this point, Hulk is also like,
I don't know what
like,
the fuck.
like I'm done.
Yeah.
Like I'm about to just leave. And that's when Heroim starts to speak of his people's prophecy and his own backstory.
Yes, which I think out of all the backstories, Heroim's my favorite.
Yeah,
I really like his.
I think I would agree with that as well. He essentially says that his people believe in a savior, a hero, the son of Sakaar, the Sakaar son. And that his people, again, they're like monks. They are trained to worship the Sakaar Sun, or believe in the Sakaar Sun at least. And they go through all these trials and tribulations. They go through great like bouts of pain.
Yep.
But like he explains that because they all have tattoos, but then
they're not
tattoos. They're scars.
They're acid burns.
Yeah.
That they mark themselves with, and it's slightly mentioned because whenever Kyra and Heroim kind of like interact at first, you know, they're like, when did you get your marks or something, or like I earned my marks or something like that.
Yeah, it's a big part of their culture. It's supposed to show like a rite of passage
because like again, like they're supposed to be monks. They're supposed to not. It's almost like kind of like taking after like Buddhism a little bit,
like a vow of silence.
A little bit. They're supposed to just not feel, like react. Like when he's like, when I had pain, I stood silent or sat silent and everything like that. It's basically like to, again, like almost like a Buddhist monk kind of thing of like, you know, not letting these outside things affect their inner, you know, peace or whatever they're doing.
Yeah. And that's when we finally learn that Heroim gets his name, his title, because he failed the last trial of his passage, where he had to stare into the eyes of his master, and essentially like his master looked deep into his soul, and that's when Heroim found out about like himself at the same time, and it scared him because his people are taught to entrust the Sakaar Sun within themselves, kind of like what you mentioned, where it's like you find that power within yourself. But Heroim didn't find that power within himself. He wanted to be the Sakaar Sun.
Yeah.
Like, which is not what he's trained to be.
He essentially felt ambition.
Yeah.
And he's like, because, you know, growing up, they're basically being told of this figure and that this figure could be anyone essentially. And it's like, well,
and he wanted that.
Yeah. He's like, well, maybe I'm the Sakaar. And he's like, I sat down before my master or my elder or whatever, and he looked in my eyes and he knew. And that's how I earned my name, the Ashamed, because of my blasphemy, you know, which I really liked his whole back. I thought it was very cool. I like seeing kind of his people's culture and background and a little bit more exposition on like the lore of the Sakaar Sun and stuff like that. I actually really like this moment.
Yeah, I agree. That's when the Shadow Elders are introduced. They appear riding their tentacle monsters. We saw one at the beginning when Hulk first, you know, started fighting. They essentially take Hulk, Kyra, and Heroim to their sanctuary, where they reveal this machine, because this is when we find out that they're not native to this planet as well.
Yes.
They came from a distant planet that I believe was dying. Either way, they left their planet. They came to Sakaar, and that's, you know, they were basically treated like second-class citizens.
And they shipwrecked.
Yeah, that's it. They shipwrecked.
They shipwrecked, and that because they didn't arrive via the Great Portal.
No, they made the portal.
Yep.
Because it was a part of their trying to fulfill the prophecy, where they were trying to.
Well, they were trying to activate. They used their ship or something like that, and it created the Great Portal. I can't remember if it was to fulfill the prophecy or whatever, but I just know they tried to use their. I remember they tried to use their ship for something. I don't think it was to get off planet, but they created the Great Portal, and ever since then, like different species have come through.
That's how they got the Surfer. That's how they got Hulk.
Yep.
And they essentially put Hulk through the same like type of trial that Heroine went through. Basically to see if he is the Sakaar son, because a whole part of the Sakaar son is that like he doesn't feel hate.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't fight out of hatred, he fights out of justice. And obviously Hulk is confronted with, visions of the warbound dead
and the Avengers.
Yeah, the Avengers, the Illuminati standing over him, and they're the ones that killed the warbound, and so he flies into a rage and he kills them, essentially. And that's when the elders say, like, you failed. You're not you're not the Sakaar son.
And he's like, cool, I'm taking your spaceship.
Yeah, I'm taking this. Fuck you.
And he lifts the whole, and it's revealed. The whole ship is revealed.
Yeah.
The thing's fucking massive.
Oh, yeah.
And he lifts it up with one hand.
Yeah. This is where they establish, like, Hulk is not only back at full strength, he's getting stronger.
Yeah. One hand. Yeah. And it's like a super, like, carrier ship. It's huge.
Yeah, it is because their whole people were on it.
Yeah.
Because they left their home planet.
It's almost like a Eldar Craft World ship.
Oh, yeah. That's what it gives the feeling of. So they take that ship. They have their own fleet as well. They have, like, their own dreadnoughts now. And they storm the capital. Like, they go in. Like, Hulk and Kyra lead the charge. And they go straight into the city. And at this time, the king, the Red King, is starting to get suited up. Mm-hmm. Like, we're entering the final battle. And it's then that the spikes have caught back up, because the spikes are still a threat.
Yeah, they've been like corralling the spikes to chase them the entire time. Like, they've been dropping Deathfire bombs to just basically have the spikes chase.
And Hulk realizes that something is coming with them. And Hulk feels the need to go into the spike ship.
Yeah.
And he does. He's like, because the spikes stop fighting
for
a moment. Yeah.
Because they're getting surrounded and like overtaken.
Yeah. And when he walks in, he sees these like glowing
like spike primes.
Yeah, spike primes.
Alphas.
He calls them big spikes.
Yeah.
And that's this is when we get the whole, like, the Imperials are in need of a queen now.
Yeah.
That's when that
and they bait Elo to be like, I'll be queen.
And she goes in.
It was a trap.
Yeah, it's a trap.
The Red King's like, I'm so glad you could.
Yeah, I'm glad you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
And
I do not like her character.
I don't either. I wish she kind of would have died right here. Because she's not that interesting.
It's not even that she's not that interesting. I think it's more of a, like, I can appreciate having like a character where she would have to work on her ambition and stuff, and like kind of be like not like her fellows. Like, I can be different from my fellows' line of thinking, but she doesn't really do that.
No.
Like, she's kind of very vaguely does, when later it's revealed one of the nobles that they come in and they're like gonna cleanse out her mom is there, like that's the only time that it's kind of like an unnecessary side thing, but at the same time, like, if it was done a little bit differently, I think it could have been something cool.
Now, we might be saying this now, and then we get to World War Hulk, and she might end up being like
super important.
Yeah, like a good character.
Yeah.
But yes, like you said, the Red King essentially is like, thanks for, leading most of your forces here. Now I can wipe them out, and there's nothing, you can do. Or I think he says, which do you prefer? Do you prefer incineration or decapitation?
Yeah.
And then Hulk says, how about a third option? And he says, kicking your ass. And he's got the entire Spike army just behind him.
Yeah, and it's revealed because that the Spikes are actually cosmic beings.
Yeah, they feed also off of like cosmic radiation.
Off dying universes.
Yeah. Like, they don't target
they don't target anything. They're essentially like cosmic scavengers.
Yeah. They even said that they found out that there was life on Sakaar, and so they were just going to go past it.
Yeah, they weren't even going to stop, but their ships, I can't remember how they crash landed. I think they went through the portal, didn't they?
Yes, they went through the portal.
And it fucked up their ships, and they crash landed, and they got stranded. And because of the lack, they couldn't eat cosmic energy. Their brethren, the lesser spikes, they've gone mad and are just like consumed by hunger. Very zombie-esque.
Yeah.
But they're consumed by hunger, so they're just feeding on everything so that they can try and sate the hunger. And they just can't, because they can't get cosmic energy and stuff like that. And the spike primes are like, if you help us, we'll help you. We can control our brethren for a short time.
Yeah.
As long as you promise to help us out afterwards, we will aid you.
Yeah. And, you don't see Hulk's response, but obviously.
You got the response when he showed up with all the spikes, and it's like, hey, it's clobbering time.
Yeah. So Hulk shows up with all the spikes, and you have these citizens and Imperial soldiers who are like, Emperor, protect us. And he's like, get out of my way. And he just incinerates them. Like, he's just full on fucking insane at this point. And, Hulk tells Meek to chem with everyone in the city. Like,
to show them everything.
Yeah, everything the Red King has ever done. And he's like, I want the Red King to know what he has done to all of us. That way, when I kill him, he knows why he's dying.
Yeah.
Like, Hulk is full on, like, you're not walking away from this.
Your ass is grass.
Yeah. You are not. I'm the lawnmower, bitch. You're not getting away.
Yeah. Your ass is mine.
And they just start fucking duking it out. They are just beating the shit out of each other. The Red King's talking shit, and he's like, you're nothing. Like, look, I can just cut you with a single swipe of my sword. And Hulk's like, that just makes me more mad. And he starts fucking kicking him around. He ends up, the Red King shoots rockets at Hulk. Hulk fucking catches them and just like lets them blow up. And he says, because the Red King says, like, you're making me mad. And like Hulk's like, not mad enough, once he catches the bombs and lets them explode. And then he fucking kicks the Red King, destroying most of his armor. And the Red King at this point's like, I'm gonna give you one last chance to kneel,
kiss the ground.
Kiss the ground, blah blah blah. And Hulk's like, you're dead.
Yeah.
and then the Red King's like, no, you are. And then he basically activates like a self-destruct button.
He's the definition of, if I can't have it, no one can.
Yeah. And he essentially like basically sends the planet to its doom, because
he breaks apart like the tectonic plates
of
the Earth's,
by using this like statue that has like a machine in it.
Yeah, and basically lava starts pouring out and everything, and everyone's like, no, like
this is it.
Yeah, we're done. He broke the world.
Yeah, he's the world breaker.
And Hulk's like, bet.
Yeah, and he jumps into the fucking planet.
Like into the mantle underneath the crust.
Yeah.
And just starts pulling the shit together.
Yeah, he fixes it with his strength.
Yeah.
It's like reading The Flash and be like, he ran so fast that he fixed it. Like,
yeah.
Hulk was so strong that he just fixed it. Which is like cool. I love that.
It's cool.
Like, he gets to use his strength to like fix something, not to break something.
And
then
he
does break something.
Yeah, he does. And it's also cool to see like him almost live up to that like God standard.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, like Hulk's a threat.
Yeah.
Like he is not small potatoes.
Yeah.
And he is essentially a god.
Yeah, he is a god amongst men.
He can't die. He's like super strong. He only ever gets stronger, and now he is like that potential. He is like, I am essentially your god now.
Yeah. But it is cool because he doesn't view himself.
No, he doesn't.
He just views himself as the Hulk. He fixes the planet. Korg saves him, and Korg throws Hulk at the Red King, and the Red King's like, today, Green Scar, you. And then before you can finish it, Hulk just says, die.
Yeah.
And then fucking launches him into like beyond the fucking capital.
Yeah.
Like into another goddamn portion of the continent. And then the Wildebots just tear him apart. They find him and tear him to pieces.
Yeah.
And that's the last we ever see of the Red King.
Kind of anticlimactic as far as his death go. Like, I really wanted him to die like a super horrible death. But at the same time, like, it's good to see like him get comeuppance from a group of individuals he's basically like tortured and like, you know, for years and years.
And it's funny too, because I kind of like that he dies that way, because throughout the story you get these villagers, these imperial villagers who are like, these Wildebots, they're starting to overrun us. Like, and we've asked for aid from the king, but he refuses to do anything because he doesn't view the Wildebots as a threat. And then the way he dies is getting stabbed through the back by a Wildebot and then getting torn to pieces by them. It's like, if you have done your job like you were supposed to, you maybe would have survived and gotten your revenge against the Hulk.
All right, you've turned me around on that. That's actually a super valid point, because I didn't think about it like that. But no, you've turned me around on it. I actually really like that now. Yeah. That's actually like super funny and ironic, because it's like, dude, if you just done your job in the first place, you probably wouldn't be here. One, you wouldn't have all these people trying to revolt and kill you, like, and also there wouldn't be Wildebots that would have been right there to kill you if you just done your job.
Yeah.
Yeah, you turned me around. Yeah.
So essentially, the war is over.
Yeah,
like the people are free. You know, there are still imperial loyalists who like believe in the Red King, but they are like kind of a side threat, like a minor side threat. And then Hulk holds his end of the bargain with the Spikes, and he lets them feed on him because he is powered by radiation. And Kyra stays with him the entire time and is essentially saying, like, you can't do this, like, you're going to die, you're not strong enough. And Hulk says, like, I am strong. Like,
and she's basically like, okay, if you're gonna do this, I won't let you be alone. And for 7 hours, because it stated 7 hours, he allows them to feed on him.
Yeah.
And they take so much radiation from him that he goes back to essentially being Bruce Banner, but he still has like Hulk's mind.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
Like, they essentially cured him, but he was like still Hulk.
Yeah.
And then like,
he just immediately goes back to being Hulk, though.
Kyra's like, like, you need a rest. You're like super, and he's like, nah, I'm fine. And like in like a minute, he's back to being Hulk.
Yeah, just shows how much like, of a fucking powerhouse.
Yeah, he's like super uber strong now, and yeah, like then he goes into like the
city,
and
he's now, because we get this, like, it's not necessarily a narration, it's more of just a little like speech, like dialogue bubble, not a bubble, but it's like, because it's a speech block that says day 1 of the reign of the Green King.
Yeah,
because he's now called the Green King.
Yep.
And you know, the people are, you know, giving him food. He's walking through the streets, being amongst his people, and you know, they're
like, will you break bread with us?
Yeah, and he's, you know, he's down with it.
Yeah.
But we do start to get infighting between
a little bit
between Meek and Elo, Elo, whatever the fuck her name is, and they start just fighting because Meek is like, fuck the loyalists, fuck the nobles.
Yeah, and they're going to go kill them. And this is when we find that one of the surviving loyalists and nobles is Elo's mom.
Yeah,
who she thought died. Yeah,
and they're essentially, Meek and Elo are about to kill each other. Because Elo has laid not a killing blow on a native, but
injured
it, like he has no eye now.
Yeah.
And then Hulk jumps in between them and he's like, we'll settle this the way it's supposed to be settled. And he puts them in the arena. Yep. And then that's when the people are starting to be like,
did we just get a new tyrant?
Yeah. And they begin to fight each other.
Shadow Elders are watching too.
Yeah, and the Shadow Elders are like, we were right, he's not the Sakaar son.
Yeah.
Like, the Sakaar son wouldn't do this.
They're like mockingly, oh, like this is the new order.
Yeah. And they begin to fight each other, and then Hulk immediately jumps in. And he's like, yes, fight me. And he gets like all the like attention on himself, and they start like, because people are starting to get scared of him, they start fucking stabbing him and doing all this shit, and he's like, are you done now?
Yeah.
Did you get it out of your system?
He's like, essentially like, if you want to fight someone, fight me.
Because I can't die.
Yeah. He's basically like, if you want to kill each other, you're going to have to kill me first. Then you're free to do whatever you want.
But as long as I'm around, there will be no more fighting.
Yep.
Like, that's not the people that we are, which is cool because you do see like the Shadow Elders like, oh, like we made a mistake.
Yeah.
Like we were wrong.
Yeah.
And
I don't think they necessarily retract like that he's the Sakaar son.
They don't say it, but you visually see it on their faces, like surprise, and then a couple of them are smiling like, oh.
Like he is different.
Yeah, he is different.
Because I still think it's blasphemous in their religious thing to consider him the Sakaar son.
Because they believe everyone is technically the Sakaar.
It's within them.
Yeah. But they do believe that he is the right king.
Yes.
Like he should be king.
It's not a replacement of Tyrant.
Yeah.
It's
And then at that point they have a meeting with Hulk, and they're like, we should try and rebuild the oaths that were broken by the Red King.
Yep.
And like our people should coexist. And Hulk is essentially like, fuck it, like I don't want there to be a treaty. I want a queen. And he's essentially like, you guys can have your land, you can be left alone, you can have your religion. I don't care. I just want a queen.
Yeah. I don't want your like bodyguard or whatever, because he's obviously fallen for Kyra.
Yeah, they're both in love. Like you can like throughout the story they start to develop that kind of relationship. And she's not even objecting to it. She's like, yes, I want this. I'm in love with you. And
then they have this thing, this ceremony where they basically are like,
vulnerable.
We're gonna bear all to each other. Like there is no secrets. We know each other in and out. We are one being. And
he reveals himself as Banner.
Yeah, Hulk's a little bit hesitant, I think, at first. Like it shows with his eyes kind of looking away from her because she's like staring into his soul. And he's like, okay. And he basically retracts himself and Banner appears. And I really like this moment, but at the same time, because I'm kind of torn on this. I'm glad there's not a whole lot of Banner in this, but I also think in this moment there wasn't enough Banner to have this kind of like healing of like we're chill with each other now. You know what I mean?
I agree. I think that's on purpose. I think this moment is supposed to demonstrate that Kyra doesn't care. Because he reveals himself as like, I'm Banner.
Yeah.
Like he reveals himself as like the timid, weak side of, because Hulk and Banner are two sides of the same coin.
Right.
They are one person. Like they are two separate personalities, but they are one person.
Yeah.
And he basically says like, you wanted to see me. I'm sorry to disappoint you. And Kyra doesn't care.
Yeah.
Like I like it because this is a moment of she loves him for all of him.
Yeah.
Both Hulk and Banner. Like she doesn't just love Hulk, she loves the weak side of him as well, because she doesn't kiss Hulk, she kisses Banner, and then he turns into Hulk.
Yeah. I'm torn on it because it's like we have that moment earlier with Hulk's insecurities of, like Jarella wasn't in love with you, I was in love with Banner. And I felt like I see what you're saying and I agree to an extent, but like her kissing Banner, like, yeah, it might be her accepting of all of him, but I also feel it's like, while it's undisputed that she loves Hulk, it's just kind of to me of like, Hulk is the one she fell in love with. While I'm fine with her accepting Banner within him, just like the kiss with Banner to me just rubs the wrong way, because it's like, that's not, because they're different. That's not the individual you fell in love with. I would be totally fine with a moment of like, I accept, like I understand, and then he reverts back to Hulk, and then she kisses him. That's just a personal gripe.
Okay.
There's not like, I don't know. That just rubs me a wrong way, because it's like there's this obvious moment early where, Hulk's very insecure about, the Banner side of him and everything. And I understand this is a moment where it's like, you don't have to be insecure. But to me, I just felt it rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah.
Of like,
Yeah. I can understand that.
you know,
I just viewed it as before Hulk was insecure because he felt as though that the previous woman Jarella wasn't in love with him. She was in love with Banner. This is Kyra saying, I'm in love with both of you. Like, to me, there is no Banner and Hulk. There is just Hulk. Like,
yeah.
Like, because you both have different names doesn't mean you're two different people. Obviously, to us, he is two different people.
Yeah.
But like in her point of view, and her people, she views it as just one person.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you don't have to like it either way.
Overall,
that was my viewpoint of that.
Don't get me wrong. Overall, I really like this moment. It's just like,
I see what you're saying.
It just for a second, because I feel like, you know, like this is Hulk's story.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I said, like, I'm glad there wasn't a whole lot of Banner in this, but for her to like kiss Banner and like accept this whole thing, and like obviously Hulk is like, you know, I'm no longer insecure about this. I also don't think there was enough Banner to necessarily like really resolve that.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe it comes up in World War Hulk. I don't know. But in that moment, I'm like torn on it because I'm glad there wasn't a whole lot of Banner. But I'm also like, for me, for this moment to pay off of her kissing Banner rather than just straight up kissing Hulk, you know, like there wasn't enough Banner in the story to have like that resolution between Banner and Hulk.
Yeah.
You know, but
I can understand that.
That's just like a mini personal gripe.
Yeah.
Super specific. Like overall, I love this moment. I like that idea of bearing all to each other, you know, and that just like for a second, I'm like, I don't know if I would have personally went with that decision, but it also doesn't take away from anything super.
It doesn't make the story lesser.
Right. It's definitely a personal preference thing.
Right. I can understand that. I will say there is one funny thing that is said right before that scene where, you know, he says, I want a queen, or I don't want a Shadow Guard, I want a queen. They both walk away, and Korg is standing there with the Shadow Elders saying, I believe we have ourselves a treaty.
Yeah. There is that too. Yeah.
So yeah, they have that romantic scene, and of course they're standing out on their fucking balcony, butt ass naked, covered in nothing but a bed sheet, looking at all the people staring at them.
They don't give a fuck.
The spikes are floating around because they're not hurting people because they're fed,
and they're like glowing green and stuff.
And Hulk did also promise them, because they do establish that like this is just one ship. Their entire race is on the moon of Sakaar because they have like a destroyed moon. And Hulk basically says like, not only will I make sure your people are fed, I will get you off the moon so you can go be free, because Hulk's like, that's not fair to you.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't ask for that. So yeah, it's basically just a moment of like triumph for Hulk as a character, like seeing that like he now is the king of an entire people. Meek and Brood, they hook up.
They don't hook up. That's them going into that science room where
they hook up right there.
I don't know. I don't think that. I think it's maybe they do. I don't know. I wasn't looking that hard into it because I was already like goth queen Kyra. Yeah.
So Meek and Brood, they stumble into like the shipyard area where Hulk's ship is being held, and Meek at this point is like, he's essentially saying like Hulk's lost his drive. Like, he's not a warrior anymore. He needs to be a warrior.
He's hung up on like getting vengeance and justice, quote unquote, for his people.
Right. And then he sees the ship and it starts projecting the image that the Illuminati left for Hulk.
The video, yeah.
And Meek is like, this is what I need for him to remember. And then Hulk, he is in bed with his wife now, and Meek wants to show him the ship. He starts camming Hulk like, hey, come see this. Yeah. Hulk he watches the video and it makes him mad. Mm-hmm. He leaves after destroying the video, the screen, and he takes Kyra to like the steps, and he's like, what if we just left?
Yeah.
Like, what if like just you and me, like we can leave and we can just live in peace. We don't have to worry about ruling anybody. We can just, be ourselves away. And she's like, this is when she reveals that she's pregnant.
Yep, she reveals she's pregnant. Also, I really like the fact that Kyra, she's like Hulk's biggest supporter. And she believes kind of, not necessarily that he's the Sakaar son, but he is some kind of savior.
Yeah.
Like, I like that she's not a super zealous.
No, she doesn't believe in that.
Yeah. But she's like, I'll go anywhere with you.
Yeah.
If you don't want to be king, cool. We'll pack up our shit and go.
But you need to at least see what your influence has done
Yes.
for this people.
But be confident that you are not the destroyer you think are. These are the steps that you fought and bled on. Look at the life that it is bringing now.
And it shows that the steps are, it's basically like a farmland now.
Yeah.
It's completely vegetized. People have started creating a settlement around it, and there's like crops everywhere. So it's like the people will never go hungry now because of you.
Yep.
Like you've brought in an age of like fertility to this planet.
Like, look at the good that you're doing. And that kind of brings Hulk around to like, you know what? You're right. I think I can do good for these people, for this planet.
Yeah.
And he accepts the role of being king.
Yeah, because he returns back to the capital, and people are cleaning up like the mess and everything. And then Meek shows up, and he's like, what are you doing? Because Hulk's moving rubble as well, and Hulk's like, the king's dead. Like there are still enemies around us, even with him dead, but they don't have to be enemies anymore.
And Elo's kind of in the same camp too. Mm-hmm. I really do not like that those two. Like, Meek's walking a very thin line. That Elo especially, I'm like, do not ruin this piece for Hulk.
Yeah.
Do not.
Yeah. You're gonna love World War Hulk. I cannot. Oh my god! Now that you said that, I can't wait for you to read World War Hulk. Because I kind of know what happens in that.
Yeah.
I'm
probably,
Archie. That's the robot's name.
Archie. Oh, okay.
Archie.
I can already tell in World War Hulk, I'm gonna be 100% on Hulk's side. As much as I like Spider-Man and stuff, I'm gonna be like, yeah, Hulk, fucking ruin it all, kill them all. They ruined your life, ruin their fucking life.
Yeah, this really makes you root for Hulk as a character.
Yes.
So especially when you have the context of like Civil War, like in the back of your mind and all the bullshit that's going on with that. So Hulk essentially says like, Archie, you go to the Wildebots, make peace with them, give them the land that they want. Heroim and Korg go to the Falians and tell them that the war is over. We will no longer, tread on their lands. They can have all their stuff back. We don't need it.
And then he sends Elo and Meek somewhere too. I can't remember.
Oh, to help him get the spikes off the moon.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. And he says, but before that, there's one other thing we have to do. And he turns to the statue and he fucking breaks it. The statue of the Red King, and destroys it. Essentially saying like, we have cleaning to do.
Yeah.
No more of these statues.
Yeah.
You don't need that.
Yeah, he sends them out, and he sends Meek and Eloy ahead of him because he's gonna help out, get shit straight away. And as things are like looking good and stuff like that, like
it's cool. I will say there's a really cute moment where like they go into space, they free the spikes from they make sure everything's good. The spikes leave.
Yep.
Like they kept their word. They leave. They thank the Hulk, and Meek and Elo hear all the voices, and then all the people on the planet hear all the voices of everyone who's ever died by the spikes, because they don't actually die. Their essence is like put into them, but the spikes let everyone hear their voices one last time and let them know that they're at peace, and then release their essence into like whatever
the
comes
cosmic
after. Yeah, whatever comes after life.
And basically Meek and Eloy and Hulk, they're like, all right, we're gonna head back home. Hulk's like, I'll meet you fucking there.
Yeah, and it's a really nice moment because like so Elo asks like, what's Hulk doing? And you just see a panel of Hulk smiling, falling back down to the planet. And Meek says he's going home.
Yep.
And like, you get this moment of like, Hulk is at peace.
He's found peace.
Yeah, he lands, he embraces his wife, Korg and Heroim, they leave on their pilgrimage, or they've already left, but they see Hulk land.
Yep.
And like they're like, it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Like Hulk's there. They're all having fun. There's there's a parade being held in
and
Hulk's
they're using his spaceship that he arrived on as like part of the parade float.
Yep. And then as they're talking, Hulk's like, what do we do now? And then Kyra's like, we live. We just live. And then you start hearing a beep, 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 beep. And it gets
there's
louder.
Like these kids playing on, because what they did is they made like a Hulk statue thing that comes out of the spaceship, part of the parade.
Yeah.
And these kids are messing with it. And he starts hearing the beeping. And
it's so sad. And Hulk's, he yells at all of them to move.
Yeah.
And then
the warp core goes off of the spaceship.
Mm-hmm. It is set to blow.
Because he damaged the ship before the warp could happen to send him where he needed to go. And that's why he hit the great portal and the warp core goes off. And it's basically a fucking nuke times a million. And it obliterates the entire Imperial capital.
Yep. We cut to Archie, who's talking to the leader of the Wildebots, the king.
Yeah, and he's like, King Hulk's great. Like,
And he even says, like, you can meld with my like interface, and you can see that like Hulk, you can see like all the conversations I had with Hulk and his council, so that I'm not lying.
You can know what kind of character he is.
And the Wildebots are essentially like, oh, okay. And they're like, oh, we trust him.
Yeah, and you just see an explosion
in
the distance.
Yeah, and then Archie, he says, oh no.
Yep.
And this is kind of where Archie's starting to become like a little bit of a bigger character. Hulk is trying to shield Kyra because like her stone skin's not going to be able to withstand it.
She's like, she sees the fear in his eye, and she's like, "Don't worry, Hulku, I'll never leave you."
Yeah, yeah. It's
I'm
very
like,
sad.
someone's cutting goddamn onions in this room.
And you see moments at the Imperial capital where like Imperials are starting to grow vegetation in the capital. Yes. The Shadow people now have a temple in the capital that they can worship at. Nobles and like common folk are starting to intermingle.
And Elo's mom is like kind of shown as representation for the nobles.
Yeah, and she's like actually making peace with like the natives, and they're like actually talking to each other and hanging out. And then the bomb goes off, and you see civilians interact. You see that the Brood is trying to like gather as many children as possible to get them out of there, and people just turn into dust.
Yeah, they get vaporized.
Yeah, like the Brood ends up dropping like almost all the children from the shockwave, and they all just get turned into fucking dust. Elo's mom and the native that she injured, like he tries to save her, but like it's too late. Like he can't. And Elo's trying to get a hold of her mom.
And Corgan here, Heroim is seeing the explosion in the distance as well.
And they're like, we have to get back as soon as possible. Yep. And they get there.
So heartbreaking.
They get there, like the explosion reaches them, and like shit just goes fucking crazy. And you see Heroim, like obviously Korg survives, and he's like, oh my god, I'm the only one left. And then the fire starts to dissipate. And you see Heroim is just standing with like one of the soldiers like in his arm, because he's inherited the old strength, which means that Kyra has died.
And they make it back to Hulk, and they see him standing
holding Kyra
in the center of this explosion.
Yep. And she just turns to dust.
And he's like, give them back. Talking about everything.
Yeah.
He's like, give them back.
And he just starts destroying everything.
And he, not even destroying anything, he just like slams the ground, and he's like, give them back at the top of his lung. Yeah. And then he just kind of like gives up.
Yeah.
And under his breath, he's just like, give her back.
Yeah.
Because she was his piece. I'm like getting somewhat sad just talking about it.
Like, you can tell it's a great story because of how well it handles
it. Just
the scene
hits, and like it's just so heartbreaking. And
I'll say at Hulk's lowest moment, that's when his Warbound show up.
Yeah,
like they come, they tell Hulk or Hulk's like, leave me alone.
And they're like, what do you want us to do? And he's like, there's nothing to heal. There's nothing to destroy. There's nothing. Yeah. He's like, there's nothing I can like be angry at and like take my anger out. And there's like, the war, like Elo's like, well, I'm sure there's something you can blame for this, and we're behind. Basically, they're like, find an enemy, and we will come after them.
The Brood, it's kind of a very humanizing moment for the Brood, because the Brood is crying at this point.
Yes,
which is cool because you never see the Brood as like a
sympathetic,
species. And the Brood says, I bet you can figure out some place to go.
Yeah.
And then the narration starts of, this is the story of the Green Scar, the Eye of Anger, the Harkonnen, Harag, the World Breaker, Hulk, and how he finally came home.
Which is mirrored, because that's the same thing that's said in the very beginning of this book,
as he's crash landing.
Yep.
And throughout the last couple pages where they're saying, this speech, it shows panels of them like building, preparing for war, building weapons, forging armor, and then the last double page spread is Hulk on top of the ship leading, and like pointing them in the direction of Earth.
Because in the prep of like showing them ready for war, I think one of the last panels is it shows Earth and the moon.
Yep.
And that's where they're fucking heading, and we're headed straight for World War Hulk, baby.
Yeah. But in between that, we have at least 2 more stories before we get to World War Hulk.
I'm so excited.
I am too. I think our next Marvel story we're going to cover is Civil War.
I'm down for it.
I know we had a Spider-Man book planned at some point, but I think we can hold off for just a little bit.
This makes me super hyped to kind of go through this whole arc
this period
of Marvel. Yeah, and that kind of be like our Marvel kind of thing. So if you don't want anything spoiled, I suggest you go ahead and read so you can come through the journey with us.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So we'll probably cover Civil War and cover Annihilation, and then definitely do World War Hulk. I'm super excited. This has me like, I was super hyped when I first read it. I was super hyped, even though a lot of things are different in the animated Planet Hulk movie. I was super hyped then. Like this, I'm not a big Hulk fan, but this story, like I am all the way behind Hulk, dude. Like,
yeah, this made me a Hulk fan.
Again, like even when we get to World War Hulk, because he's gonna fight everybody.
Oh yeah.
As much as I like Spider-Man, and different heroes, I'm gonna be 100% fucking behind Hulk on this.
Man, I cannot wait for us to do. Again, I haven't read it, but I know a lot of the stuff that happens in it.
Yeah.
Or a lot of the major story beats. And I think you're going to be impressed. Now, I do know people, while it's not considered a bad story, people still say World War Hulk's very good. Yep. A lot of people do say that it doesn't quite live up to Planet Hulk.
Like the hype.
Yeah. Like it, in the sense of Planet Hulk is a much better written story, because I do believe it's different writers. Mm-hmm. And I think I've heard people say that, like, it doesn't have as satisfying of a conclusion, because this has a super satisfying conclusion, but it also
depending on where you stand.
But it also leaves off on a huge cliffhanger where it's like, of course, whatever comes after this, I don't think is going to live up to the hype.
Yeah.
So,
man, like the writers did a really good job, but god damn it, why'd she have to die? Like, because they could have kept her alive and just had it be like everyone else dies, and like she's like watching her loved one go basically through the steps of going crazy of like, I want vengeance for everything, when she is like, the voice of reason being like, like it sucks and everything, but you're continuing a cycle of violence and everything. Why'd she have to die?
Yeah, no, I looked it up. It is still written by Greg Pak, same writer. Artist does change. It changes to John Romita Jr. And I
say that with a level of chagrin.
I don't like his artwork whatsoever. Now this is the early 2000s. His artwork might be a little bit better, because John Romita Jr. changed his artwork quite a bit to match Frank Miller's artwork, because that's like kind of his inspiration. Mm-hmm. And his artwork looks awful now.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I don't like his artwork. I can look up pictures for you later. That way you can kind of see. But that's a whole nother story for us at a later time.
So all said and done, how do you feel about this? I know you said you really liked it, but let's get the official confirmation.
Two thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
This shit is good. I can't even go out, buy it. You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it at your local comic store. You can buy it digitally. It comes in a collected format trade, which I believe this trade was about $40 after tax. It's a steep price, but you get a lot of story with it.
You get a bang for your buck.
Because there are also backup chapters in here or backup issues that we did not go over because like they don't necessarily pertain to the Planet Hulk storyline.
Yeah.
But they are still in there, so you have extra to read. Of course, all the world building stuff in the back of the book is also in there, which is good by itself.
And also just add a dope story to your collection.
Yeah. There is an omnibus for it that collects all the tie-ins. I actually saw the omnibus yesterday when we went to not my local store, not the local comic store, but another one in a nearby city. Mm-hmm. And the omnibus is like double the size, almost triple the size of this trade.
And that I told Ethan about this because I read it yesterday night. I started around 9:30. I didn't finish doing notes and reading it until like almost 2:00 in the morning. Yeah. It's a beefy, like obviously I'm stopping taking notes and things like that. So it takes a little longer, but it is a beefy book.
It is.
Like it's going to take a minute to read.
Yeah. Now I will say like, because, I told you that the moment because I read the first couple chapters, I was like, oh, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, I'm definitely going to enjoy reading this. Once I got into, like, chapter 3, chapter 4 at work, I was like, I cannot. Because we were so slow. We weren't working. We weren't doing anything. And I have one of those kinds of jobs where if we're not doing anything, I'm just sitting in my chair, not, I'm not on the computer. I'm not on the computer doing anything.
I'm not doing anything.
And, I started reading chapter 3 and 4, and I was like, I can't stop. Yeah, I have to keep going.
Just go all the way through.
Yeah.
Like I told you, I was like, there's moments where I had to like hold up on myself, and I'm like, I need to take notes.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting a little carried away. Yeah. So definitely in my notes, some of the chapters seem a little lighter in the note taking part. That's because it was really good.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be like,
couldn't stop.
Yeah, I wanted to keep going, but
it's awesome. I can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, it's so good.
Again, this is a very popular book, so you will more than likely find it at your local comic book store. Mm-hmm. You can also potentially find it at like Books A Million, Barnes and Nobles if you have those where you live. Amazon has it. I know for sure Amazon has it because I always look on Amazon first whenever I'm looking for like, what is and isn't out of print, because you can kind of tell what isn't in print, based on what Amazon has, which is why I buy like, I bought that New Mutants omnibus over there yesterday because it's the first volume's not in print anymore. It's just good. I can't recommend it enough. And knowing what, like, again, because I know some of the story beats that happen after this for World War Hulk. Knowing some of the stuff that happens after this just kind of elevates this book to another level. Now, again, I will say a lot of people think World War Hulk is a little bit of a letdown just because it's not as good as this. I'm still super excited to read it. I want to see how this story arc ends for Hulk. Not just for Hulk, but like for the Marvel Universe
as a
whole.
That has been brought.
Yeah, because like, again, another thing to keep in mind is like all this is happening at the same time of Civil War, and then Annihilation is also happening, which is like the cosmic side of the Marvel universe. And there's just so much shit that happened during this era of Marvel that's like you can kind of tell that they hit their renaissance, because this is right before the MCU like started, and they were gearing up for that first Iron Man movie, which is why Iron Man is such a major player in Civil War, because before that Iron Man was not a popular character. But yeah, no, I think it's great. I think it's required reading if you are a fan of comic books. And it's crazy to me that I've been reading comics for over 20 years at this point, and this is the first Hulk comic I've ever read.
Yeah, and it's fucking great. You're welcome.
Yeah, it's very good. Thank you. Yeah, and I mean, I assume I already know your thoughts on this story as well, but I mean, if you have anything extra to say, go ahead.
Fucking love this story. This story is, again, I'm not a super avid like comic book reader and things like that, but even out of the several normal books I've read, this is one of my favorite fucking stories. It's just, it's almost timeless in the sense of like it uses inspirations from real world things, you know, to kind of propel the story. A lot of the themes and stuff can be attributed to humanity and kind of like, again, the philosophical side of things and stuff like that. And just, it's just written really well. The art's really good. I fucking adore this story. It's so good. And again, I'm not like a diehard Hulk fan. Like besides this, I can't tell you anything Hulk that I've read, but I fucking love this story. It is so fucking good. I cannot recommend it enough.
Yeah. Again, I wasn't a Hulk fan before this book. I am a Hulk fan now after this book. Like this book really changed my perspective on the character. And you know, it's gonna be really difficult to find a story that lives up to this one.
Yeah.
But I know that there's other good Hulk books. And again, there's Immortal Hulk. I know that Immortal Hulk is considered to be a legendary run. People love it. Al Ewing did an amazing job on Hulk, and we will cover Immortal Hulk at some point. Yes, because
I'm down for anything Hulk now.
Yeah, I am too.
Like honestly, I'm
excited.
This has me hyped. Yeah. Like I'm just like amped up now.
Yeah,
like
we have a couple more books before our next Marvel book.
Yeah.
But I will say the next Marvel book we'll cover will be Civil War. Yeah. Like, and we will just go down the line until we hit World War Hulk, and after that, we can do whatever we want. I know I brought up doing Secret Invasion before we started recording.
Secret Invasion, yep.
But we can go back to doing just random stories if you want. I'm down with that. But I'm kind of on the same boat with you on. I want to see this ride to the
through,
end. Yeah. I agree. But is there anything else you want to add?
Nope. I mean, other than the usual, like go support your local comic book stores and things like that. So, support the artists of these books.
Yep.
Definitely don't use these podcasts as a supplement for actually reading the story.
Because there are some things just for the sake of brevity and time, because we both went in knowing that this was going to be our longest episode yet, because it is a long story. There's some stuff that I purposefully cut out because it just didn't add weight to the story, and I very much shortened a lot of the conversations that were being had between characters.
Yes,
because there are some times where there will be panels of like pages of characters just talking to each other in a Hulk book of Hulk talking to characters.
Yeah, but very much go read this yourself.
Go read it, and I'll say, obviously I should have said this at the beginning of the podcast, but here at the end, whenever you listen, if anybody's listening, I'll always say that, and this just doesn't go for us, it goes for all, comic book YouTubers that kind of do this, or, commentators. There's nothing wrong with listening to somebody, read the book to you, or, review the book or whatever. But I'm always going to encourage people, before you listen to a YouTuber or a podcaster or, anybody, read it first, form your own opinion on the book, and then go watch somebody and see their reactions on it. Because, there's no better feeling than like reading something and be like, this is fucking awesome. And then you go listen to your favorite, YouTuber or podcaster, and they're like, yeah, this book is fucking awesome. And then you can kind of nerd out over their opinions on the story.
Yeah, always, like I said, do not supplement this as a way to ingest this amazing story or any of the stories we cover. And obviously our opinions are going to be different from yours.
Our opinions are different from each other's.
Sometimes. I mean, there's definitely certain stories like this one that line up of this is fucking cool.
Yeah, for the most part, we both unanimously agree.
Yeah, Batman Year One, we were both like, this is dope.
Yeah.
I think because we mentioned it already, if we air it, we both thought the Dread versus Predator was kind of god awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
it'll get aired. It's just a matter of when.
Right. Yeah. That's true. But yeah, I mean, I hope everyone, if you've made it this far, enjoyed listening to us talk and rant and joke and talk about comic books because it is a blast. Me and Ethan love doing it. And we'll keep doing it even if you're not listening to us right now.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. I don't think I have anything else to add for this book. I mean, the book speaks for itself.
Yep.
The story is just so good. Yeah, go to your local comic book store, pick it up, and just have a blast reading it. And I encourage you read the other stuff that comes along after it and alongside it, like Civil War, Annihilation, World War Hulk, all that kind of stuff.
And as much as we've been hyping this up, if it's not your cup of tea, no sweat. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
I mean, I don't know how this book has everything.
No one should ever judge anyone for their taste on something. So if this isn't your cup of tea, that's fine. But I would find anyone hard pressed to not enjoy this.
Yeah, I agree. Like, you would just have to say that you're not a Hulk fan in general,
and like be adamant about it.
Yeah.
If you come in with this with any kind of open mind, I think you'll enjoy this. But yeah, that's all I have to say about it. Go read it.
Yeah, I think I've said my piece. So yeah. Well, this has been Comics with Friends, the bi-weekly podcast where two best buds get together, talk about a comic that they absolutely loved, talk about the minor things they really didn't like about it. And when I say minor, they are minor. And yeah, we tell a few jokes along the way, and I think that is it for us for this week. And go out, buy the book, have a good rest of the day, week, month, year, whatever you have. And we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.